Welcome to the beautiful Monterey Peninsula, home to many iconic landmarks, including Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Today, the site of the penultimate round in the 2012 Rolex Sports Car Championship. In Daytona prototypes, defending titleists Scott Pruitt and Memo Rojas lead the points, but the Ganassi duo has never won here as a driving partnership. Right behind them in the standings, Ryan Dial, Ford's very quick and hungry Scotsman who knows how to get it done at Mazda Raceway. In the Grand Touring category, it's been quite the battle at every race, but Ferrari co-drivers Jeff Siegel and Emil Asentado have more victories than anyone else and are poised to put this championship out of reach. However, with its undulating twists and turns, as well as its world-famous corkscrew, at this place, anything can happen. It's the one and only West Coast trip for Grand Am in 2012, and to be at such a legendary circuit at such a crucial stage in this championship is the perfect marriage as we get ready to take a wild ride down the world-famous corkscrew here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca for round 12 of the Rolex Sports Car Series. This is the Continental Tire Sports Car Festival powered by Mazda. Hi folks, Lee Diffie with you here in California on a beautiful day to go racing at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, where there's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm about the huge announcement that was made earlier this week on Wednesday at Daytona Beach in Florida. It was perhaps a day that many of us never thought that we would see, and that significant announcement was that the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series and the American Le Mans Series have merged and will race together in a united sports car championship starting in 2014, and we've got a lot more to tell you about that throughout the course of this broadcast. But for now, let's give you the championship scenarios in this Rolex Sports Car Series as we show you the points heading into this second last round of the championship. Starting with Daytona prototypes, of course, and the multi-time champions from Ganassi, Scott Pruitt, Memo Rojas, they have a comfortable 18-point lead, but it is still not out of Ryan Dial's reach. Let's switch pages to GT. It's a lot more comfortable. The largest leading margin all year for the Ferrari boys from AIM Autosport FXDD, Emil Asentado and Jeff Siegel going for their second class championship. It's time now to welcome in Speed Sports Car experts, Dorsey Schrader, Calvin Fish. Cal, we just saw the specifics there. We know what the points are, but what are we looking for today? What's the state of play?
Well, for Pruitt and Rojas, healthy lead right now. Their first order of the day is to make sure that car does 30 minutes. That will ensure that they score some points coming out of this round. For Dial, he has to go on the attack. He needs to win here today to try and narrow that gap. In GT, very different story. The 69 boys, Emil and Jeff, they've got a great season going. If they had a win here this afternoon to keep that championship alive, Rob Nadal would either need to finish second or Paul Dallalana on the podium.
And Dors, I had an interesting conversation with the best there is at the moment in Grand Am, Scott Pruitt, the other day. He said they are not changing a thing. They're going to stay in their rhythm, they stay in their routine, because when you do change something, that's when you make mistakes. As a championship winning driver, do you understand what he's talking about?
I totally understand. I totally agree with Scott. You can't script a race. I mean, basically, you come out here, this is a very, very iffy racetrack, very slippery place. You don't know what's going to happen. You go here on full attack. You go out like every race the rest of this year for full blood. You could give it all and try to win both these races.
There is so much more going on besides those drivers and teams in the championship hunt, and with more on that, we start with Brian Till. Brian?
Well, thanks, Lee. Remember, there are other drivers out here besides Memo Rojas, Scott Pruitt, and Ryan Dial that could affect the championship outcome, and they're not involved in it at all. Think about this. IndyCar stars Alex Tagliani, Paul Tracy, they're here. They'll be in the thick of it all day long. And the drivers from the 99 Red Dragon, John Fogerty, Alex Gurney, they have yet to win this year. They want to do it here. They've done it the last two races in a row here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and if you believe in numerology, they may have a very good shot. The 99 car starts its 99th race today on the 9th day of the 9th month of the year, and they qualified at, are you ready, 99.2 miles an hour. Maybe a little karma working for them. The Corvettes, they've been fast here all weekend long. And the number 90 car, the Spirit of Daytona, they've had a good weekend, but they had some drama in practice when Richard Westbrook on board the 90 leaves the corkscrew, and at the big compression down at the bottom collapses and breaks a suspension component. They got that car fixed, managed to come back and qualify on the pole, so a good run for them. But Chris Neville, all weekend long, this racetrack has been very hard on equipment.
Yeah, Brian, and those curbs not just taking their toll on the prototypes, also roughing up the GT classes. These drivers are trying to use every inch of this racetrack. Friday in practice, Robin Liddell on a very fast lap coming down the hill through Rainey, heading into turn 10, just clips that apex curb at the center, and that right front suspension just folds up underneath that Stevenson Camaro. And it wasn't just that car, it was also our points leaders in GT. The Ferrari also sustaining some suspension damage over the course of the weekend. And Lee, you talked about that points lead that Emil Asentado and Jeff Siegel have? Well, we've got Lime Rock ahead of us. They've got a comfortable lead, but there are scenarios at play that keep that championship alive. But it's Ferrari really going after this manufactured championship. Interesting to see that they brought another car here this weekend, run by the very strong Scuderia Corsa team with factory driver Olivier Beretta. Lee?
Thanks, Chris, and time to congratulate our respective class pole sitters for Richard Westbrook and his Spirit of Daytona team. It's their second this year, and of one of those pole positions at Barber, they drove to victory lane. Could that be a sign? And you just heard Chris talking about Scuderia Corsa and Alessandro Balzan. Congratulations to them on their first run here in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. Subaru starting grid rolling in at the top of your screen. We're ready to go. You can see what a beautiful day it is, and there are just 2 races left in this 2012 championship. Both these Corvette teams on the front row would be delighted to see victory lane here in California. The 5 has been spun.
Paul Tracy there, I think he got tapped there as the GT field now comes through.
Wow. You can imagine how Paul Tracy's going to respond to that treatment. Let's go racing. Westbrook at the front, and wasting no time is Alex Popov in the 2.
Wow, not a great start for John Fogarty. He's going to try and recover and rebound, try and get around the outside, but Alex Popov can be very aggressive. Good clean start for the GT machines, Dorsey.
GTs look good in the middle of that. Remember, Paul Tracy's right in the midst of that, trying to get through after being spun at the start.
Tagliani gets pushed a little wide. The 9 comes forcefully through there. It's been a tough weekend for those guys from Action Express Racing. They want some redemption in this race. They have been struggling all weekend.
Really struggling for grip, but they went a different direction, actually went stiffer. They kept going softer with the car, searching for grip, went stiffer this morning in the warm-up. Their driver said the car is much more drivable.
That's Darren Law tucking in behind the Toshiba Corvette of Ricky Taylor. There's Ricky in the 10. They've had their own struggles too. This hasn't been a picnic this weekend, Dors, for numerous big teams.
This is a tough racetrack to get a car set for because of the elevation change. It really needs a stiff spring to hold the car up when it does the compression like right here. However, the infield has very little grip, so you'd like to go softer in there. Everybody's been struggling with this racetrack.
10 team are really said those rear tires, 5-6 laps, we're really starting to get the car really loose and losing lap time. Ricky could be hanging on here today.
The lanky Englishman leads the way. Richard Westbrook for Spirit of Daytona Racing. They know what it's like to be in victory lane, but boy, they've had their fair share of frustration as well. There is Paul Tracy on the comeback trail. How about GT, the 73 Horton Autosport Porsche with Eric Foss behind the wheel, qualified the car on the front row for the first time in the team's Grand Am history. They're off to a flying start, but not quite as quick as this Ferrari. This is the car to beat in the class, everybody feels today.
It really is, and they've got Olivier Beretta, one of the top GT drivers in the world. Now a Ferrari factory driver, was with GM for many years, with the Chrysler Oreca Viper team. He's won here before in the Viper. He knows the track well. He's also a former Daytona 24-hour winner in class.
Let's take you back a few moments ago, a lap and a half ago, to the original start. And we're going to show you the view from the 01, the BMW Riley. John Fogarty off to the right. Keep an eye on that red car. Deep on the brakes, Dors.
It was very deep on the brakes in that white line back there you can't cross into. Oh, and there's a little argy-bargy here, Cal.
Yeah, there was. I mean, Fogarty realized he didn't get the best jump when the green came out, but look at this in GT.
Oh, good defensive by the 57. Caught that one.
John Edwards had qualified that car up on row 2, but got pushed to the back. They found the rear wing to be too high, and he's starting from the back of the pack, and you can see the drama you get in the middle of this GT field.
Boy, Paul Dallalana launched off the curb. He saw it. He was heads up enough to give that car room to land. Otherwise, there'd been a 2-car mess up right there in the gravel trap.
Good reactionary driving from John Edwards. Speaking of good, look at this guy go. Westy, as we call him, Richard Westbrook. This has been a very, as far as Spirit of Daytona is concerned, it's been a very clean weekend. Other than that error, that little hiccup that Brian spoke about earlier, they have been at the front of this field almost the entire weekend.
Well, that suspension part pulled out from a nut shirt inside. It wasn't strong enough. It won't happen again. They cross-drilled that all the way through, put a cap nut on the backside. It will not break that part again. All
right, so we're up and running here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. It's always a delight when we head out west to this once-a-year event. Who's going to get it? We'll find out in this 2-hour, 45-minute race. What a beautiful part of the world it is to be, and to be racing. Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. And Dors, let's turn to Google Earth to have a look exactly where we are.
Where we love to come to see, no doubt about it. You look up north of us at San Francisco, then Salinas and the beautiful Monterey Peninsula. That's where we are right now at Mazda Laguna Seca Raceway. One of my favorites. At 11 turns here, 2.238 miles. It's a very busy racetrack. The infield very, very slippery, and there's some curbs denoted in red when you see the curbs are pretty hard on cars.
Get you back to racing in just a moment, but first, Cal, talk us through the Continental tyre keys to the race, and it's the 3 C's.
Yeah, the correct strategy. Do you take 3 stops today? The DPs could probably do it on 2, but tyre wear will be critical to that decision. Curbs, as Dorsey just mentioned, easy to damage those suspension components and tyres and rims. And caution, this racetrack is exciting, but there are some problem areas, notably turns 2, 11 and the corkscrew. Always a lot of action there.
Looking at a good fight here between Boris Said and Andrew Davis. The famous 59 from Brumos Racing, victorious here last year. Porsche has been very successful in GT racing at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Could it be a big day for Mazda? Well, those teams that run that brand are certainly hoping for, like Team Salem, like Speed Source, like Dempsey Racing. We will see at the end of this one. Remember, we've been in sprint mode, 2-hour mode. This is the first one back in a while, back to 2 3/4 hours, and we'll finish the season out this way.
Well, this is a great little battle going on here. Great start by Boris Said. He's actually running hurt this weekend. Has hurt his ankle in some training incident last week, and this will be a factor as to how quickly they can get Eric Curran in that machine. The Porsches are looking strong here. Got Eric Foss running second, and a good strong weekend all around for the Brumos squad of Andrew Davis and Lee King, currently running right behind Boris there in the 4th position.
If you're just turning on, Richard Westbrook for Spirit of Daytona Racing leads the race over John Fogarty, Alex Popov, and then in 4th place is Memo Rojas. They are leading the DP Championship, of course, with his longtime co-driver, Scott Pruitt, who's standing by with Brian.
Yeah, Scott Pruitt looking on. Not nearly as dominant performance this year than last. You guys just picked up the championship lead about halfway through, and I know that Memo was not happy with the car in qualifying yesterday. How is it today?
We made some improvements this morning. Let's tell next BMW, we're just not quite where we want to be. We're fighting this loose in, pushing the middle loose off. We made a few changes before the race, so we'll see. He hasn't really said much yet. We're kind of settling in, and we'll really focus on a big picture here. I mean, that's more than anything. The bigger thing we're looking at is championship. What we need to do, not take any chances, and be smart.
Being smart, they're trying to win the championship, as somebody else is as well, Chris.
Yeah, and it's Ryan Dial who's chasing both Rojas and Pruitt in this championship, back by 18 points right now. And Ryan, you've got 2 races here to try and make up that deficit. Can you do it this weekend?
I don't know. We're struggling a little bit. We seemed like we had a good car Friday afternoon when it was hot, and we were kind of confident the track would come to us. And then since then, we've really struggled. So it's a shame that the 2 cars working really well, but the 8 car just likes something a little different, and we're hoping as it gets hotter it might come back to us, but right now we're definitely struggling a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like Alex Tagliani about 2 seconds off the pace of the leaders. We'll have to see if they can make some changes for the pit stops.
And remember the thing with Alex Tagliani, here he is here in the flex box number 8, is doing double duty as he did at Montreal at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. He starts the 8, he will finish the 2, taking over from Alex Popov.
There's been a bit of a weird scenario within the Star Wars camp. The 2 and the 8 cars seem to like different things. We've seen it at numerous races this year, most recently at Montreal, where the 2 car just seems to be working a little bit better. They thought it was the front splitter initially, then they tried some different stuff with the front sway bar, but whatever the case is, Dorsey, the cars are supposed to be identical. You put the same setup on them, but it doesn't react to the driver in the same way.
Yeah, they never are identical. You know, I've seen something right now, guys. We didn't talk about the weather. It's been absolutely gorgeous here in California. Normally we in the mornings have a fog off the sea. We haven't had it. As a result, the racetrack gets really hot fast in the day. And when it's hot, as we see it spin right now at the top of the corkscrew, no damage yet.
Scott Mayer in the 7.
The racetrack picks up grip when it's cool, and this is the coolest day we've been at so far. This is the precarious moment now going against traffic.
Team tested with Scott Mayer recently and said he did a really good job, but
nice job here.
Ooh, that's tough. That's tight up there. That was right in front of the Magnus Porsche of John Potter.
That was close.
That was close. I knew it was going to be an iffy way to turn around.
Keep going, recover, and keep going.
This is what happened to Scott Mayer. He's all by himself.
Leaves his braking a little late, Cal, and gets in over his head a bit. It's a tricky corner because it's blind on the approach.
It did, and he didn't really seem to set up wide enough on the entry at the turning point either.
Stay out. Feel out the car here.
See if there's any flat spots. The team are telling Scott to stay out there. Tell us if there's anything wrong. If there isn't, just keep going. He's staying on the lead lap, which is the critical factor. Colin Brown will finish off the job in the 7 car today.
Might have got away with one there. I don't think he locked it down that hard, and it turned around pretty quick, and there's a low grip level up there, so maybe just got a wake-up call.
And speaking of Colin Brown, I think that was the voice of Jeff Brown, his dad, who's engineering that car this weekend. So Westbrook, Fogarty, there's nothing between those guys. Half a second. Popov is 5 seconds further back. So Westbrook and Fogarty are just taking off from this field.
Tracy's quick though. I mean, the leaders are doing mid-22s. Tracy's doing low 23s. There's only one other guy faster than him right now, and that's Popov, who's currently running third. So Tracy's having a good run here in recovery mode. Remember, this is almost an audition for Paul Tracy, trying to get that ride for next year.
Let's show you what happened earlier in this race. Right, coming to the green flag. There's Tracy on the inside in the 5.
Oh, he
spun all by himself.
Yeah, he just ate some curb there, Dorsey, and
just lit it up. Of course, this is cold tires again. Watch him on the inside. He touched the curb, got on the throttle, and the back end just had no grip yet, no heat in those tires.
What was his first piece of feedback at Montreal? He said these cars are so easy to spin.
That's exactly right. Here he comes, looking to the inside of John Pugh. That's a tough place to pass. Chris?
Well, guys, after that spin, I went in and checked in with the team to see if he said anything on the radio or if there was anything to be concerned about the car, because he was off in the dirt there, and they said they've been watching everything. Temperatures look good, splitter looks good on that car, and the only thing that Paul said on the radio is that, look out, guys, I'm putting the bit in my teeth now.
Well, it wasn't funny that he spun, but there was a funny story inside the Action Express team as the pressure is on here. Pressure is on Richard Westbrook for the lead of this race. Fogarty goes on the outside line. That's the long way around at the Andretti hairpin, and then brings it back behind the Spirit of Daytona Corvette.
Yeah, Richard delayed a little bit there, getting off at turn 11 by the Salins machine, and had to take evasive action, defended it well. It's all about track position here, Dorsey. You place the car in the right spot, really hard to overtake.
Yeah, it is. You really have to be up on your head, up in the game here to watch him get those runs at a guy and get by him, because you can spin real quick. We've seen that.
One of the things that all of the competitors have said this weekend is that this racetrack has absolutely no grip. They've never seen it this way. And both Richard Westbrook and John Fogarty said the balance of our car is not good. If we press too hard, we just go sliding off the racetrack. So right now, it's a great race going on for first and second, but it's like they're racing on ice.
To that point, though, what I was trying to say before is that we have the coolest day we've raced at. This racetrack in cool weather has pretty good grip. The hotter it gets, the worse it is, and the cars are not sliding right now like we've seen throughout the weekend.
To finish that story on fellow Corvette driver Paul Tracy, the boys inside the Action Express team, through the frustration that all drivers were experiencing this weekend, Paul Tracy said, I've had enough. I'm going to bring back the old Paul. They said, that's a bit scary. We thought we were seeing him.
Well, he is the old Paul now, isn't he?
We are at one of the most beautiful and most spectacular racetracks in the world that sees all forms of racing and legendary moves like Zanardi's some 16 years ago. We hope you can stay with us all throughout the afternoon. That was Montreal. This is Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and that tells the story. We're under our first full course yellow of the day. And it was for this car, Tony Arve driving the Vehicle Technologies Viper, as he came to a halt on the inside of turn 5.
Yeah, it shut off right there as it came down the corkscrew. You heard the thing just lose drive or lose power. Tony got it off the racetrack, you'll see here in a second, to a safe place, but they're not going to just leave it there and clutter up the place and get it towed back in and put the yellow out.
Really trying to develop this car. They worked hard on the braking, and the suspension package basically had it down on what they call the bump rubbers, which is something that's incorporated into the suspension design to try and keep the car off the deck, and just wasn't working well. But they're working hard, and it's great to see them here in the series.
While we're under yellow, let me remind you about NASCAR Race Hub presented by Ram. It's tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and boy, they've got a lot to talk about after Richmond last night. Matt Clark and Larry Mack, as always, will run down the Rumble in Richmond and deliver the ultimate chase preview. So much to talk about on NASCAR Race Hub Monday night at 6 p.m. That's presented by Ram here on Speed. Now, speaking of yellows, we had a Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge race here yesterday, and yellows were the story of the day. More laps were run under caution than green. The general consensus is we're not going to see that here today because the car density, the track density is not as large, not as many cars.
These cars have more grip, too. I think the racetrack's better today as well than what we saw.
But that was pretty chaotic.
It was 11 cautions. That's a record for us.
We're just under 20 minutes into this event. You need to do 30 minutes to get championship points for the drivers here today. But I think we may see some activity because it was really tight on the DPs and doing it on just 2 stops fuel-wise. And the big thing is if you stop now, you're going to shorten that final and critical stop a little bit.
Send us what you think. Tell us what you think. And your thoughts on Grand Am about the merger, the American Le Mans Series and Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series merger. There are all of our respective Twitter handles, and of course, joining the conversation, don't forget hashtag GA as in Grand Am, GA on Speed.
Tough for the leaders right now. When you've got that track position, Dorsey, you hate to give it up at this race circuit. So if you're in the middle of the pack or certainly at the tail end of the field, it becomes a freebie. Let's see what the 01 does. Down into turn 10 after 10. There's the pit exit over to the driver's left. Let's see if anyone peels off.
Due to time management, a number of teams, Cal told us in the paddock this weekend, we might be doing more stops than you normally see us do.
Yes.
Well, here we go. Ganassi.
That was close. Now, in the drivers' meeting, they told the drivers they needed all 4 wheels inside of that line, designating pit in. Very late call by the 01 team. I don't think they wanted to play their hand and see everyone see it. Timmy King told me this morning, 15 minutes in, we're probably going to take some fuel.
Here we go. Ganassi's in the box. Chris?
Yeah, Ganassi right next to me. Memo Rojas staying behind the wheel. Also the 8 car, Alex Tagliani getting out Ryan Diel, who's chasing the Ganassi boys in this championship. He's getting behind the wheel in the 8 car. Alex Tagliani saying on the radio that this car has been very loose in that initial 12 laps. So this team making an air pressure change on this stop. A little bit slow here trying to get Ryan. It looked like some problems getting him buckled in. But now the 8 down and away.
Someone just blew the red flag. Someone just blew the red flag, but he has stopped since.
It's the 5, Tracy.
Tracy, and he's trying to fix his problem.
Not good. You don't want to be stalling on that hill there.
No, and that's a big point right there. It's uphill leaving, and so many times we've seen that these clutches get hot, and it's hard to get the thing rolling, and that hill will kill you.
Dial will finish out the day in the 8, and Tag will then jump into the 2, and Popov comes in.
It's been an eventful day so far for Paul Tracy, hasn't it?
Yep.
Grand Am officials discussing that, and I'm sure they'll say, well, he pulled up, he stopped anyway in the long run, we'll let him go. Before the break, you saw some, not all, of the Daytona prototype stop, and then just a few moments ago, this was our GT class leader, Alessandro Balzan, for Scuderia Corsa. And as we said right at the top of the show, this new team to Grand Am Racing is going to take some stopping here today.
Been very impressive. No tires, as you can see, going on the car, just topping him up with fuel. That just increases the window for the next time you need to stop. There you see one of the Salins crew members in the way. Slight delay, but no harm there.
So no stop for race leader Richard Westbrook, John Fogarty in second, Alex Popov, or Ricky Taylor, or John Pugh for Daytona prototype. So the top 5 did not take that opportunity to come in. They decided that was not part of their plan.
Surprised Taylor didn't come in, because they talked today about making it a 4-stint race and trying to manage their tires a little bit. And of course the guys who did come in, they're all stacked up behind you, full of fuel, some with fresh tires.
Saw John Fogarty getting real aggressive, so watch this restart. I know he wants to get by, take that lead if he can from Westy.
2 vets have a lot of pace, but half a second over the rest of the field. Let's see if they can keep that.
And these 2 teams know that they are the 2 teams to beat here this weekend, both feeling very confident, buoyed by the pace of their car.
Look at Tracy down the inside.
Oh.
Tracy takes it away from John Pugh. There you see Rojas on fresh tires, looking for a way through as well.
Oh,
that's tires.
Yeah, that's definitely tires. He launched really good. There's a little rub right there with Pugh. Saw some smoke. I don't know if he's got damage in that.
Yeah, he was going quite slow through turn 3. Now he's back in the groove, but has lost 4 positions.
Watch out for Colin Brown. That's a Gen 2. It's not the current generation of Daytona prototypes, but he's been pretty rapid around this place this weekend. He's now behind the wheel of the 7.
Climbing the hill, nothing's changed. Westbrook, Fogarty, Popov, then Ricky Taylor. This is Colin Brown in the 7, taking over from Scott Mayer, who had that spin at the top of the hill a little earlier. Through, and the drop down the 5.5 stories that the corkscrew is from top to bottom.
Fogarty's looking good. I think Westy's just trying to defend, not open the door for him at this stage till he gets into a rhythm. But look at Alex Popov again. So impressive for one of the Pro-Am drivers in this series. I don't think he'll be getting that category next year.
No, I don't think he will either.
And if Alex could only hear what some of his peers say about him, they're like, that Popov guy, he is good. He is fast. All right, it's time to hear from some of the guys who have just stepped from the cars. Let's start with Alex Tagliani.
Yeah, that's Alex Tagliani who's going to take over for Alex Popov later in this race. And Alex, I heard you on the radio talking about the 8 car, just very loose out there. The team tried to make an adjustment. Is that type of adjustment going to settle that car down?
I mean, it's a long race. I think there's a little bit we can do with tire pressure. The StarWorks team, you know, has been trying to do a great job on that car, but for sure Ryan has his work cut out for himself in the race. The 8 car is not as competitive as the 2 car at the moment, and it's been a struggle all weekend to make sure we get it closer.
What's the difference right now between the 8 and the 2 car?
The 2 car has just overall grip, you know, very stable, not a loose car. And the 8 car is loose in, understeer in the middle, so you're kind of like fighting the same balance, you know, all the time.
Well, the 2 cars might look alike, but they've definitely got different personalities this weekend, Brian?
Well, if you're a sports car fan, you certainly know who this man is. Olivier Beretta, multi-time class champion at Le Mans and ALMS champion. Olivier, how impressed are you at what Giacomo Mattioli has been able to do with this brand new team in their first appearance in the Rolex Sports Car Series?
Well, first of all, I'm really happy to be part of this team. The Scuderia course has been built not so far, and it's from LA, Weaver, Beverly Hills, dealership, Motorola, and all the guys, the crew are very motivated. We have a very strong car with the 458 Italia, and I'm really happy to be part of that.
It's great to see him here. This is the car that Risi Competizione ran back at the Rolex 24 in January, Lee.
And Brian, the gentleman you mentioned there, Giacomo Mattioli, who owns this car and this team and the dealership, Ferrari of Beverly Hills and Silicon Valley, has a very interesting story. He grew up in the town of Modena. How could he not be associated with Ferrari when that occurred? And he grew up, he went through school, he got a law degree, he ended up being in Ferrari's legal department. He progressed so quickly through the company, he handled all of Ferrari's licensing, and he became a real star within the Ferrari organization. And his life story goes on to lead him here to set up Ferrari of North America and the distributorships throughout North America, hence him becoming the owner of Ferrari of Beverly Hills, etc. So he was always destined to do something with the prancing horse.
Certainly done a great job on debut here in the Grand Am Series. As Brian mentioned, the car did compete with Risi at Daytona. Olivier was part of that driving squad, finished 5th that day. And here we see a good battle going on up into turn 6. 57 car trying to get to the sharp end of this field right now. John Edwards still behind the wheel.
I think he's going to get a good shot right there. A good run off the corner. He's going to get by the Ferrari cleanly.
Got a replay coming up for you from just a few moments ago. Contact between the APR Audi and the Dempsey Racing Mazda. What happened? This is our first look at it. Turn 2, the Andretti hairpin.
Yeah, Charles Putman gets a little bit of lock up there. There's Jim Norman down on the inside in the APR Audi. And then just got to give each other a little bit of room there coming off the corner, otherwise you get squeezed.
So in GT, as we see the front runners, nothing's changed there. Westbrook, Fogarty and Popov. It's Eric Foss for Horton Autosport, the Porsche team that has announced it will expand to 2 cars next year. That has been confirmed. They are partnering with one of North America's largest Porsche dealers, and they're hoping to announce that at the next race at Lime Rock Park. So great news for that team who's doing such a great job, but also good for the series as well with the small teams expanding.
Oh, it's fantastic. Right now they're leading this GT field. They didn't take the opportunity to make that pit stop, but nevertheless, they qualified on the front row, were running second, and the fact that they're expanding, it's a great organization. It's a small team, but they're getting the job done.
But the good news with the merger with Grand Am, of course, and the ALMS series is you're going to see a lot of expansion over the next year or so as things get put together and put to bed as far as a rule package. These teams, this is going to be a very, very strong series.
So from first 2 all the way down to 9th position at the moment. There's only 9 seconds. These guys are running close. The 5 of Paul Tracy. There's the 9 of Darren Law. It was racy early on. There's our GT leader. Second place is Boris said in the 31. And then the 59 of Andrew Davis.
Good run for the Salins machine too. Wayne Nonamaker behind the wheel. He always won strong here. Now, there's been a speed trap gun set up on this front straightaway, and that Mazda is really about 4 to 5 miles an hour slower than the rest of the GT fields. You can see he gets gapped there down the front straightaway, but that lightweight Mazda is certainly working very well through the infield. Maybe that'll be a factor with tire management as well over the course of his stint.
Right at the top of the show and right throughout this show, we will be talking about championship and championship contenders. One of those in GT is Robin Liddell. Brian?
Yeah, and in typical Robin Liddell fashion, he's been digging all weekend long. But Robin, you're one of those guys that said the racetrack has been very difficult to find a balance on this weekend. You guys found a balance for this race right now?
Not really. I mean, to be honest, we had to make some changes for the morning warm-up. The car was okay, but I mean, at the end of the day, we've got what we've got. We knew we'd be a bit slower, especially than the Ferraris coming here, just simply the level of downforce and the tyre that they've got. We can't really compete with that, to be honest, but I thought we'd be a wee bit closer, but we have struggled to get the car hooked up, and this morning the car was a wee bit better. I mean, John did a good job qualifying 4th, but in all honesty, we're still about 7 or 8 tenths off the pace, so we're not going to do a lot from there, I don't think. Obviously starting at the back was not ideal, but overall in the grand scheme of things I don't think it'll make a lot of difference to the result.
Well, they still have a long way to go, but a note on that last pit stop, it took a little bit longer than what they had wanted. They dropped a couple of wheel nuts, and they also had taped the front end of that car, much like a NASCAR car would do, looking for front downforce. They needed to pull some of that tape off because they started to get high water and oil temperature.
60 car, you could see in pit lane there, so Oz Negri now behind the wheel, just past the 30-minute mark, so John Pure will get driver points today.
And John Edwards executes a move at turn 2 on Sylvain Tremblay in that 70 speed source Mazda. So in GT, it's Foss, Said, Andrew Davis, Wayne Nonamaker, and championship leader and champion-elect Emil Asentado running in the top 5. That's not good news for the 57 boys. Off to a break. Back to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in a moment. And will the championship in Daytona prototypes go right down to the wire between Scott Pruitt, Memo Rojas, and StarWorks Ford driver Ryan Dial? Just have a look at the average finishes at Lime Rock Park. Comparison between the two.
Yeah, well, certainly you see advantage Dial there. I mean, Pruitt and Rojas, and there we see Rojas getting really wide on that curbing coming out of 6. We're on board with him right now as he's chasing down Ricky Taylor. But, you know, right now the bigger problem for Dial is he doesn't have a fast car underneath him here today, Dorsey.
Yep, that Lime Rock weekend, I will guarantee you fans one thing. That's going to be a wild one.
And there's been various radio transmissions going on from Tim Keane, team manager at Ganassi, to this man here, Memo Rojas, we ride with, saying, this guy's really holding us up. He's talking about Ricky Taylor up ahead, and he's then giving him a time count to the car immediately behind. Ironically, it is the championship rival, Ryan Dial, running in 6th place, and there you can see Dial. So this is not good for Memo Rojas. He needs to try and clear Ricky Taylor.
Memo's going to have to watch dropping that wheel. You heard on board with him how hard that chassis hit, Calvin. And we've had a lot of suspension failures and tire issues with these red curves, what we talked about at the beginning of the show. Anytime you see that red on a curb, it's taller than the curb part that's light and blue.
Yeah, it's really tall. We've seen video, of course, of suspension pieces being torn off these race cars this weekend. Right there, you can see there on the inside of turn 4. And then coming up here, there's another big one, but you know, I think that initially Ricky Taylor was holding up Memo Rojas, but I think Rojas has now got into the rhythm of Ricky Taylor, and that can happen around a racetrack, Dorsey. You immediately got more grip on those fresher tires, and then suddenly to go in front of you, you back into that pace, and behind him, Dial has got some charge going. He's coming after him, and those are our 2 championship contenders.
You know, you watch how these 2 cars operate, Calvin. You're right about that, too, because it catches right up behind him. It doesn't look the way, and it could be a downforce issue too, but it looks certainly like the Rojas car does not get off the corners nearly as good. Watch this car just drive away here.
And guys, you're talking about
Ryan DL trying to chase down Scott or Memo Rojas there. I just checked in with Peter Barron on that air pressure adjustment they made to the 8 car, and he said definitely that car better, not as loose as it was that first run. They'll continue with changes on that car in the next stop.
And Ryan Dial the other day was quite philosophical about his chances, his realistic chances in this championship. He's a big boy. He knows it's a hard task and a hard ask, but it's not over until it's over, right?
It isn't, but I tell you what, Montreal was a big, big blow with Pruitt and Rojas winning.
Especially turn 5 coming up.
Timmy Keane on the radio, I believe, talking to Rojas there, trying to instruct him through this situation he's currently in. But Montreal was a disaster for that team when Ryan got into that hairpin a little too deep, turned the car around, got into Ricky Taylor, then had the subsequent penalty, damage to the race car, lengthy fix. That was a bad, bad day for their championship hopes.
Through turn 6, the very fast turn 6, the climb up the Ray Hall straight. And that last onboard shot just shows you how blind the approach is to here, the corkscrew. And right now, Rojas is growing impatient, and he's worried about the guy right behind him. He's in the worst position right now.
This is a tough spot. Ricky Taylor's doing a really good job with a car that has been a bit of a handful this weekend by the admission of everyone on that team. Wayne Taylor's really been scratching his head and very frustrated that they can't seem to get to the bottom of that. Now remember, we've got different vets in this series because there's different chassis underneath them. This is the Delara chassis. The 99 car is essentially the old Riley chassis with the Corvette bodywork. And of course, Westbrook and the Action Express cars, that's the old Coyote chassis. So a lot of different variables underneath the skin, Doors.
Yeah, definitely, no question about it. You look at Ricky Taylor, and what he's trying to do is get straight launches off the corner because he's got rear tire issues. They've been having it all weekend, so he's trying to maximize his exit speed. Now, Memo is really good at getting into the corner better. He's trying to get his nose up underneath if he can and pursue that issue, and he's also got the pressure from behind to deal with.
Look at this, you just got to really gauge this traffic correctly and get a good run. Right now, Ricky Taylor's trying to just sort of like stack everyone up behind him. And there we go. Has got to run guts to the inside. Nice job. GT traffic, he has to be careful there. You dive down the inside. Oh, then we see the 51 is key as if those rear tires are stuck in the gravel if the 51 can move, but Rojas is through.
Good move, too. That was decisive. That's exactly what you need to do. Got it done cleanly. And you just heard Timmy Keane said, give me a couple of good laps now. Get away from these guys.
Remember Pruitt's comments as well. He said, we're thinking about the big picture. We don't want to throw it all away.
Didn't have a lot of room to make that move either. He used every available piece of road, which was nice. And now it's Ricky Taylor again in the hot seat. There's Jim Norman.
Oversteering, the tires have just gone away, and I can't do what I usually do.
The key is there, Dorsey. You see those rear wheels in that gray gravel.
Second yellow.
There we go, yellow.
Second full course yellow of the day.
Look at this, the 01.
Wow,
that's a great read. This is a great read because the pit lane will now be... Oh,
he's got to go through.
Well, I guess they must have closed pit lane on him because I thought he jumped into pit lane before the pit lane was closed. Obviously not the case.
There's the lights.
Thought it was a brilliant move, and now it's backfired totally because if he could have topped up, pace car would have been out, pits would have been closed, and Westy and the rest of the boys up front of this pack would have stacked up behind 01 and Pruitt.
And that was so close. He almost made that.
Let's have a look at that replay of the pass from Memo Rojas on Ricky Taylor. Heading down into turn 5. Dawes, talk us through.
Memo knows what he's going to pull. He's already setting it up right now. He's up in the draft. You watch him. He's reading it. And look at that. I mean, there was just an inch on each side maybe to get through there. He read that perfectly. And you see Jim Norman off the side right there. He didn't know that was going to happen. So I'm sure that gave him some worries.
Be interesting to see if we can find an onboard look of Rojas when he did dive into pit lane. Obviously, Timmy made that call, could see that the car was stuck. And it must have been right about at the same time that the race officials said, we are going yellow, close the pit lane. There's a light system now in place.
Well, we've got that onboard view of Rojas coming into pit lane. So let's relive the moment and look for the flashing red lights that indicate pit lane is closed.
He would have been called in.
I couldn't see it.
I didn't see it.
I didn't either.
Here they go through, go through, go through. So, while we're under caution for the second time today, we'll gather things up, go to a break so we can show you more green flag racing. Just a few moments ago, while we're in the break, pits open for stops, and in comes race leader Richard Westbrook, John Fogarty, and just about the entire Daytona prototype field, and we did see some leapfrogging here.
We did, because remember, some of these boys, Westbrook included, did not stop for fuel under that first caution. Some of the other boys have been in since, so look for the 60 car, and guys like that have recently been at the pits. They're topped up. They could leapfrog around these leaders right now.
See a bunch of driver changes going on. Paul Tracy out, David Donahue in, Darren Law out, and there goes the 60 of Oz Negri.
And Dial as well. Remember, he just recently got in that car, so he didn't need as much fuel. The rest of the boys topping up takes a lot longer.
This is about, and I'm saying this off the top of my head, it's about the 4th or 5th time Mike Shank Racing has executed some brilliant strategy.
It was. They got John Pugh past the 30-minute mark, which is obviously critical for him in the Truman Aiken standings, but they also kept Oz Negri on the lead lap. So under this scenario, he's on the lead lap, everyone stacks up, he doesn't need much fuel, he leapfrogs to the front.
Just a reminder, with Grand Am road racing rules, as far as pit stops behind the safety car and pace car, the Daytona prototypes get first bite at the cherry, then GTs after that. Next time by, it's anybody's choice. Now, this happened to the 99 just a moment ago.
One of the valves sticking open, probably the vent side valve stuck open, and look at the fuel he's dumping.
Wow, I was lucky it didn't get around onto the exhaust system
kidding.
and catch fire. The other thing is, how much fuel has he lost?
A lot.
So that's with Bob Stalling's Gainsco crew. Dorse, there was a little bit of confusion with the Gainsco boys a little earlier. Brian Till is standing by. Brian, what was the story?
I'm down here in the 0-1 pit, and Timmy Keene, two things happened on that round of pit stops. The first one, when you first called him in, kind of close timing, you and Mark Ralphoff didn't see eye to eye on that timing, I don't think.
Well, I called him in. I thought we were in the lane before he called it yellow. He didn't see it that way, so that's okay. But then on that stop, we were in the fast lane. The 9 car came over and was going to make contact. We had to back off to let him in, and the rule is the car in the fast lane has the right of way, and now they're seeing that differently as well, so I do have a problem with that.
Timmy trying to win the race down here in the pits, and a lot of times this is where it's taking place. It's not working his way today.
No, and that's a tough one. I mean, there's no light, it seems, this weekend in terms of the pit in, but there's one in pit lane so the teams can see it. Pit stops going on for GT. This was our leader. Chris is there.
Yeah, Patrick Lindsay already behind the wheel, taking over for Eric Foss. Did a great job in the 73 car just behind them. That 31 Corvette. Eric Kern getting behind the wheel there. This 73 team, slow on this left front. Looks like we got a stuck wheel net here. Already other GT traffic going by. The 69, the 59, the 43 already heading out. The 31 and the 44. So problems for the 73 team. So fast here this weekend, but problems in pit lane.
And Chris, that's a real shame, because that was one thing Horton Autosport was focusing on this weekend. We said things have been going great on the track. We need to sharpen things up in pit lane.
Oh, wow, looks like it's actually jammed on the stud, Dorsey, possibly.
That's a really timely thing.
Check this out. This is what Tim Keene was talking about. Watch to the left of your screen in the 9. So the 01 has the right of way. It's in the fast lane, and the 9 comes out and bullies him out of the way.
Yeah, and Pruitt was going to fight this one all the way. You're not allowed to use that white painted area to the right to make a move, so he had to give way to Barbosa, but I think that was one that should go the other way.
Positions should be reversed.
I agree, because you're on board with Scott Pruitt, and you can hear his RPM are at a constant level, which means he's at pit lane speed. For him to get past, somebody has to go faster than that pit lane speed limit.
It's a regular rule. It's reminded to the drivers all the time. Car in the fast lane has the right of way.
No, this is just not good at all. It's one of those deals that...
What a shame for these guys who led a good portion of this race. Second behind the 63 Scuderia Corsa Ferrari for a portion, and then led after that 63 pitted early. That's a devastating blow.
Brilliant job by Mike Shank Racing getting Oz Negri to the front of this pack. Car's been pretty good this weekend. Pugh had a very good qualifying run, just a few tenths off Paul Tracy and the Action Express boys. Let's see what Oz can do.
Every time that they have leapfrogged with good strategy, a good call from Mike Shank and Dale Wise and the boys, it's gone against them. Something's happened. They had a little tyre issue at Watkins Glen. They had some dramas at Indianapolis. Let's hope it can go their way. Mike Shank Racing has had 4 top 5s here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, including 1 podium. They would dearly love to go to victory lane, though, in California. Ready to go racing again. He's shadowed by a couple of Ford Rileys as well.
We're looking at that pace car. There were some problems yesterday in the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge race. No one wants to run afoul of that rule today. You've got to stay behind the pace car, so it was a slow start, good clean one.
And you may have noticed that the 9 indeed was behind the 01, and now Barbosa goes right around the outside of Pruitt.
He's going to get pushed off the outside if he stays there too long.
Wow! Sideways out of turn 2, heading up to 3. And down the inside goes the 2. Forceful stuff from the Starworks boys today.
That was fantastic. Alex Popoff, I believe, still behind the wheel. I don't think Tag got in on that stop, so he's done a very aggressive job attacking.
John Edwards in the 57, chasing Alessandro Balzan in that Ferrari. Down the inside goes the Red Dragon.
Problems on that pit stop. They'd lost some track position. They came in behind Westbrook, and you can see the situation now. They've lost about half a dozen spots.
We know how good, how strong and fast that car is here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Let's see how high the Red Dragon can climb.
Got a fresh Alex Gurney behind the wheel now after that pit stop. Fogarty out, Gurney in, and he wants some positions back.
That could have been a factor too, Dawes. They did a driver change on the 99, and Westy stayed in the 90. And if it goes a little awry, or if you're not doing a full fuel fill, suddenly that driver change can be the contributing factor to the time spent on pit lane.
Alex has his wife and kids here today, which is fantastic, and a lot of friends. Dan and Evie are not. They're off to Goodwood tomorrow, so they couldn't make the trip up here to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. I'm sure you're watching. Hi, guys. Hope your boy does well in his 99th race. He's done every one of them for Bob Stalling's crew.
Little bobble there for Barbosa getting off turn 11, but look at that. You cannot use that pit. You can't use that painted line. He was down on that painted stripe. I'm not sure they're going to allow this one to stick.
He's going to call that he was forced there. I don't think he was forced. He was going to make that pass one way or another. We're going to have to watch this one.
We'll see it before, though. They talked about it in the drivers' meeting. It really narrows down there. They said you're not allowed to put wheels on that painted segmented area on the air through to the apex of turn 1.
And he definitely went inside of it too, Cal. It wasn't just on it.
That car is quick. Look at the gap he's pulled
really
out.
quick.
Doesn't that take us back a year ago, boys, to Max Angelelli?
Yes,
Was there a similar scenario heading down there into turn 2? So it's Oz Negri who leads the way over Ryan Dial. A couple of Ford-powered Rileys up front of this pack.
Pruitt struggling. Pruitt doesn't have speed right now. He's going to have to work hard on the balance of that race car. He's got some adjustment in the cockpit. Timmy Keane and the boys are going to have to work some magic on the final pit stop too.
We watched Memo Rojas in qualifying Cal, and it was not a happy car. I mean, it was the worst qualifying we've seen Memo do. It wasn't his fault. The car just was not got any grip.
Yeah, they rolled off the truck quick, felt very confident after the first session, but really haven't made the progress they expected, and were really scratching their heads even after the morning warm-up this morning.
There's your race leader. Let's take you back to that replay of the move, Alex Gurney, and involving this one here, the 9 of Joao Barbosa, Scott Pruitt. But we're going to show you, look to your left though, going down into turn 2. This is turn 1, cresting the hill, look to the left.
There you see the white line. Gurney has stuffed it down in there.
There he goes right there. But he got a better look from this next shot. It's already past it by then, but
and that was all caused by a bobble by Barbosa, so he lost momentum coming off that corner, and Pruitt had to lift the throttle a little bit as well, so Gurney had a head of steam on them both.
Look at that blue Corvette, the 90 of Richard Westbrook, catching up on Colin Brown. Oh, look at all the dirt on the track.
The Salins cars is off. Britton says sand on there. Everyone's slowing.
It is what it is. Just take the penalty.
Here's the call.
Sounds like the 99 is going to get penalized.
Yeah, it is the call while we were going there.
That's a tough one because he had a head of steam, was moving alongside him, but the rule is the rule, and they talked about it this morning in the drivers' meeting. Tough.
I'm not sure if they're asking him to let Pruitt back by, or if they're going to make him do a stop and
drive through.
Drive-throughs.
Well, this is one of those scenarios where I really think there needs to be a gray area where you give the position back, you continue to race.
That's
if
what
you
I
haven't passed under a yellow or done anything dangerous, give the position back. The situation has been restored without killing someone's race.
Correct.
So through they go to serve their penalty. It was a pretty frantic opening stanza of this race too for open wheel star, now sports car man, Paul Tracy. Let's hear from him.
Yeah, and Paul Tracy's watching all these replays down here. Paul, this team really seemed a bit lost trying to find some speed in this cars this weekend, but it sounded like you found something this morning. Have you guys made any progress?
Yeah, the car felt pretty good this morning for David, but you know, the problem we've been having all weekend is heat cycles on the tires. We can get the car balanced, but as soon as you stop and let the tires cool and go again, we just seemed to lose the handle on the car, and the car was pretty good in my first stint. I spun on the start, I caught back up, got a couple of positions, but as soon as we went yellow and went again, the car just completely went away and I was hanging on. So, you know, hopefully if as long as we can keep the tires hot, we're okay.
Hey, you've said many times you want to be here full-time 2013 and beyond. Are you starting to get any confidence that that's going to happen?
Well, we're trying. Obviously, I'd like to continue with Action Express and hopefully finish out the season for them. And David and I get along well. I get along well with the other teammates. And I think, you know, this weekend is not representative of how competitive the team is. It's just we've missed the mark on the setup with both cars, and we're just kind of struggling this weekend.
So, there's the story from Action Express. It hasn't been a happy one this weekend, that's for sure. Negri leads by over a second over Ryan Dial and Colin Brown. Richard Westbrook on the charge. And Alex Popov rounds out the top 5. In GT, it's still that very fast Ferrari 458 from Scuderia Corsa. We'll be back. At a lavish press conference held Wednesday at Daytona International Speedway, the future of sports car racing began to take shape with the announcement that the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series and the American Le Mans Series will merge in 2014. Branding of the new series is yet to be decided, as is the class structure, technical rules and race schedule. Among those on the new organisation's board of directors, Grand Am founder Jim France in the chairman's role and ALMS founder Don Panos serving as vice chairman.
Everybody understands that there's work to be done, that we're just at the very beginning of the planning part of it. We've made it clear that everybody that's involved in both series will have opportunity to weigh in with their thoughts and their input. The goal is to come out with really a well thought out plan and a merger of all of the teams and equipment for the 2014 season.
We're going to take the best from both. We're going to get rid of the baggage that causes each problems. We're going to listen to our fans. We're going to listen to the OEMs. We're going to listen to our race teams. And we're going to do the best to create the best sports car racing in the world right here. That's what we're going to do.
Lee, that was very exciting news. You were there that day. You were hosting the event. What was the vibe? What was the energy in that room?
Mate, it was so refreshing. As all of us on the team here, we've lived both series, we've worked both series at the one time and at different times, and it was just so refreshing to have everybody in a positive frame of mind and feel as though you're all pulling in the one direction.
No question about it. That is the foundation that we need to start building, and we will build, believe me.
And to speak further about that, we're going to be joined here in the Speed Booth Live shortly, sometime in the next perhaps 15 or 20 minutes, by President and CEO of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, Mr. Ed Bennett. So Ed's going to be talking more about that historic merger between the American Le Mans Series and the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. Right here, right now, though, you're looking at a guy we've never seen race in the Rolex Series before, the Italian Alessandro Balzan, leading in that 63 Ferrari. It's the first time they've run in the series, being chased down by a pretty hungry and fast Salen's Mazda in Dane Cameron.
Yeah, that 43 machine in Salem has been very fast here today. Wayne did an awesome job running up in the top 5. He's turned it over to Dane only 8 laps ago, so he's got about 16 laps more fuel on board than that Ferrari in front of him. So that's certainly an advantage in terms of strategy potential moving forward. And the car's been working really well. He said we don't have the straightaway speed. The Porsche's really quick. The BMW is really fast. But he said we've got a good handling car. It's been quick off the truck. And we're looking for a nice podium run here.
Giving a good account for himself, too. I mean, regardless of the strategy, it looks like he's running buzzing down on speed alone.
One of the great things about Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, Dawson, I know you talk about it a lot, is it gives such variety to show what cars are strong and weak, where and when, as the Turner and Speed Source boys go at it. Orblin lights it up off turn 11.
He did light it up. Do you see the skid mark come up the back of that thing? Trying to stay off of the Mazda, but I mean, it just lit the tires up because of the tight radius.
But you have turns like that, like turn 11. You have the downhill run into the Andretti hairpin. It's a great track for variety, Cal.
It really is. There's an ebb and flow to this racetrack. There's strengths and weaknesses with all of these manufacturers represented in the GT class. Certainly that BMW, even with that loss of traction coming off turn 11, Oblad had enough steam to keep it close to the Mazda, then dive on the inside. BMW's always strong in the brake zones.
This racetrack also pays off a good strategy. You know, it really does, because of the nuance of the racetrack itself. The gravel traps cause cautions that have to be fixed. you know, your guys in the pits make a big difference in this outcome of the race here.
This 57 Stevenson Camaro is going backwards. John Edwards has been out there for some 25 laps on this stint, and he was in second. He's now dropping like a stone. He's been passed by Dane Cameron. He's been passed by the 59 of Lee King. He's being hassled enormously by the Magnus Porsche of Andy Lally.
He'll like that corkscrew, Andy Lally. He just came off a double World Championship win in Street Luge at Calgary Olympic Park just last weekend. Was the fastest man of 220 riders out there. Crazy stuff, but Andy just loves it.
So if we put him at the top of the hill and cut him loose,
exactly.
He's going to win. Either direction, too.
He gets asked about it a lot. And he says, yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm sure it is.
Looks scary as hell to me.
Inside, staying off the paint. Is he going to be able to do it? Yeah, keeps it on the black stuff. And Lally executes a pass on John Edwards in the Stevenson Camaro.
The car that's being passed there with that rule enforced, Dorsey, you can really play a strategy there. Just don't give up a car width, and there's basically with the rule, nothing anyone can do in terms of passing you on that straightaway.
Absolutely. I mean, they've deemed that a no zone. You cannot get in there under any circumstance. And with that, like you say, Calvin, a smart driver can kind of manipulate.
Two Ferraris now running in tandem. Our championship leader, Jeff Siegel, and Johannes van Overbeek in the Extreme Speed Motorsport car. Looked really quick in qualifying. Mike Hedlund did a great job, but unfortunately that black and green Ferrari in the Patron colors was found to be a little bit too low on the front ride height. Got turfed, so he had to start from the back. So Mike did a great job, but didn't get rewarded with his qualifying position. But here Johannes, California boy based out here, he's certainly looking to do great things.
So you got three Ferrari 458 Italia Grand Ams in the top 7 positions in class. I spoke to Maurizio Nardon, who is here on behalf of Corsa Cliente, which is Michelotto's racing team program. He's the director of that program, and said, seems to me there might be a couple of extra Ferraris here to assist in that GT manufacturers fight. He said, yes. Brian?
Just checked in with Mike Johnson on the 57. He said, you got to remember, we did not stop on that last full course caution. A lot of these other GT cars did. They took tires. We have older tires on. We're going to be pitting in about 10 minutes, but quite honestly, we just don't have the pace of the Ferraris today.
Yeah, they're hanging on. I mean, one of the great things about that Camaro is the compliance over the bumps, but these curbs here, there's a limit to how much you can eat up, as we've seen Liddell actually tear the suspension off that Camaro down in turn 10, so that's really not an advantage for them. You need a good platform through this infield series of corners, Dorsey, and that's where the Ferrari strengths really seem to be.
Yeah, the 69 Ferrari suffered a similar fate with the front suspension failure of her ball joint. That's also curb related, I'm sure. And remember also, not just hitting the curbs, but the compression and how you take that corkscrew. You can really slam the nose down hard if you carry too much speed over the top of that hill.
We ride with Jeff Siegel. He was here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca earlier in the year as a driving coach for the Ferrari Racing Days event. Good to be back, and he's racing for a championship, his second in Grand Am in the Rolex Series. Siegel currently 7th. How high can he go? Can they put the championship beyond doubt today? Meanwhile in DP, Oz Negri's your man. For those of you turning on late, let's bring you up to speed with a race recap right at the start. Watch middle of the pack. Paul Tracy spins all by himself in the Action Express Corvette, but he was able to get going again.
Just leaped over that curb, Dorsey, got it turned around and narrowly missed a GT field that was getting ready for its start.
It inspired him from that point forward, though.
Scott Mayer, similar to Paul Tracy, spun all by himself at the top of the corkscrew. And then this fierce fight here between Jim Norman and Charles Putman.
Charles ran out of road there.
A little bit of argy-bargy, and this was a great move. Rojas had to get by Ricky Taylor, makes it stick down on the inside to turn 6.
So far, that's been the power move of the race.
That might be our eharmony.com move of the race. And then a little mix-up there at Team Ganassi. Coming into the pits when they thought pits were open, it was not the case. It was out of sequence, and they had to send Memo Rojas back out.
This was just after a fuel stop, and the valve stuck open and lost probably a gallon, I'd say, out of that stuck vent. You see it right there, just pour out.
Consequences of that we may not have seen yet when he makes his next pit stop.
And then this, Alex Gurney making a move on Scott Pruitt. He went over that painted white line, which is a no-no here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and had to serve a drive-through penalty. So let's show you some important Continental Tire race recap stats there. Current leader in DP is Oz Negri, and Dane Cameron has worked his way to the front in GT in that Salins Mazda RX-8, which is good going, and we've had 2 full course cautions in this race thus far. So other than that, you haven't missed a thing. Richard Westbrook, incidentally, is on a charge in DP. Here he is here in that number 90 machine. He's chasing down Ryan Dial. Now, in the last segment, you saw the piece from Daytona International Speedway earlier in the week about the merger, the announcement between the American Le Mans Series and the Rolex Series. We are very pleased to welcome to the speed booth President and CEO of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, Mr. Ed Bennett. Ed, firstly, welcome and congratulations on behalf of everybody who's a sports car racing fan here in the US. That I said it was a day that we never thought we'd see come, perhaps, but it is, and in 2014 we're going to be racing in a United Sports Car Championship.
It's very exciting. We're all riding high after Wednesday's announcement. The atmosphere here in the garage is electric. Judging from the reaction of the fans and especially the media, the response to the announcement has been overwhelmingly positive, as we believe it should be. Look, we've got a lot of work to do. First thing we'll be addressing is the competitive structure for 2014, because we know how important that is to all our stakeholders and teams, and especially the fans. After that, we'll start to focus on the schedule, and that'll be a big focus. What potential that has for all involved. When you think about a schedule, it includes Daytona, Sebring, Road Atlanta, Indianapolis, Watkins Glen, and places like Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. It's really the best of the best. Dr. Don Panos had a great line the other day. He said, you know, I wish that the ALMS and Grand Am had started talking, you know, seriously earlier, because we both discovered that we really truly like each other and have very similar goals and a lot of passion for sports car racing and wanting to see it built and be much stronger than it is today. The leadership of Jim France and Dr. Panos will be key. They match up, you know, very well. They're both very sensible, very experienced, and have a great vision, as do Scott Atherton and I. Our new board, which also includes Lisa France Kennedy and Karen Lietzau. We've got a really all-star team, and I can't say enough about, you know, from our perspective, how pleased we are to bring together the LMS and Grand Am into the future.
Certainly a great battle going on here now for the second position with Ryan Dial and Richard Westbrook. Ed, certainly the social media has been on fire this week. Twitter, all the fans have got their opinion on where the schedule should go. Certainly very exciting. But for the race teams, 2014, certainly the future is bright. For 2013, how soon do you need to give these guys some direction for next year?
The good news is the process has already started. We're mapping out a timeline of all the key elements we need to define for the future. Obviously working with our partners now at the LMS and EMSA, as well as the Grand Am team and all the stakeholders in the industry, the car manufacturers, the teams, the drivers. You know, we really want to have a process that has input from all the right groups. A lot of opportunity in the future, and we're really going to harness it.
Need to take you back just a few moments ago. Check out this replay of contact between the 7 of Colin Brown and the 41 Dempsey Racing Mazda. Watch this.
Oh.
Bang.
Just trying to get back online there, Dorsey, for that fast corner, and just clouded him.
Yeah, sent him off in the gravel trap, and that actually is going to draw a penalty for avoidable contact for Colin Brown.
And that was Charles Espinlau in the 41. He was sent to, he had to go to pit road. He had a heavily damaged rear right rim that was replaced. 57's in the lane. It was a long stint for John Edwards. Where will these guys end up? They weren't that optimistic before the race. We will see. Of course, our most recent race winners at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Montreal.
Hour and 28 to go. I think they should be able to do it on just one more stop for fuel. Rob Liddell now strapped in behind the wheel, so Mike Johnson assisting with that driver change. They're just going to stick to their strategy and see how it plays out.
So we have President and CEO Ed Bennett of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series with us. Ed, has the hard work finished, or is the hard work just beginning? I mean, this was in the works for such a long time. You've reached the moment there where the two organisations have merged. We're going to be one in 2014. But now does the hard work begin about all the things you just detailed about class structure, tracks, how many events, things like that?
It absolutely does, and it's a good problem to have. We have a lot of work in front of us, a lot of work to get to this point. Glad to finally be able to bring this great news out, to share it with the fans, share it with all the stakeholders, and we're very committed to doing the fantastic job to build this new series together.
Ed, you know, I said that the merger was similar to a foundation poured, if you will, to build upon. Now that we know that we're all in the same home, you know, we can start building that home. How big can we build it?
I think that it will do nothing but get much larger. Our goal will be to build the most professional, largest sports car sanctioning body in the world.
You've been with NASCAR for a long time. You've been with sports cars for a short period of time. What are your initial thoughts? What are your initial thoughts of coming together in 2014 going forward?
It's been fantastic. Everybody's really with open arms let me become a part of this community. The teams, the tracks, the manufacturers, just everybody, the drivers. Everybody's been so gracious. There's a big opportunity, and I tell you, we're really going to do a fantastic job with our new partners at ALMS.
In recent years, around the world, there hasn't been a whole lot of good news. It was pretty good to deliver some good news the other day, wasn't it?
I tell you, this is the best news by far I've been able to share. We're very excited.
There he is, folks, the president and CEO of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series, Mr. Ed Bennett. Ed, thanks for stopping by, and thanks for doing what you and Dr. Don Panos and Scott Atherton and Jim France have done for sports car racing, and certainly in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you for everything you guys do. You're the best team.
Need to get away to a break, and we thank Mr. Bennett. He addressed the troops earlier today, all of the drivers at this morning's drivers meeting here in Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Everybody's pumped for the future of road racing and sports car racing in the US.
Welcome to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
We call Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca our spiritual home. Mazda's a sports car company, and this racing circuit exemplifies everything that's about sports car racing.
It's a wonderful town to come to. The scenery, all of it, the ambiance. It's one of those top 3 tracks that you want to be at. And having it Mazda Raceway, running a Mazda, you want to do well here.
Throughout the development of our products, each product comes to Mazda Raceway to be put through the test. Every product we make has the soul of a sports car, and there's no better place to showcase that than at Mazda Raceway in Laguna Seca.
Yes, they're hoping for a little bit of zoom here today, and as Joe Foster has just taken over from Patrick Dempsey in the 40, visit Florida.com RX-8. Another Mazda in Dane Cameron from Team Salem leads the way over Lee Keane and Andy Lally. So it's Mazda at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, and we just saw a clip of it there prior, a few seconds, where we saw that number 70 Speed Source Mazda win a couple of years ago. That was a great day for those boys.
Absolutely. We also just saw the Ferrari of Balzan. I think they may have done a driver change as well. Just complete a pit stop. Dane Cameron was a man on a charge. Just a beautiful job getting it to the front of this GT field.
Look at this. Look at this foot cam. I don't see much lift going on there. No clutch being used. There's a little heel and toe. Clutch is just something to get you out of the pit lane anymore, and very few people ever use it.
The climb up to turn 6.
This flat shift there, you see he's not lifting off the gas pedal. Beautiful to watch these drivers dance on the pedals here in the brake zone. Look how he rolls his foot over, blipping the gas pedal in between the downshifts so it doesn't lock up the rear end.
When he gets to be 60 like me, his ankle's gonna hurt.
You're not 60 yet, boys.
I gotta go another few months, don't I?
Count your chickens.
Yeah, you're right. Something just fell off right there. Looked like a watch or something just fell down on the floor. See, there it is right there.
Wow, that's some padding. That could be a
padding.
They've just done a driver change, and Joe Foster took over from Patrick Dempsey. Patrick standing by with Chris Neville. Chris?
Yeah, well, Patrick and I are looking at Joe Foster's feet there, and Patrick, you just handed that car over to your teammate, and I was talking to Joe earlier, and that's the old Yellow Dragon car, and he kind of said she's an old girl, so she's not really doing everything right this weekend.
Yeah, she's slow and steady, that's for sure. But we got to thank Yellow Dragon for letting us have the car so we can get here to really support Visit Florida, share a little sunshine. Of course, the Mazda, the RX-8 is sort of coming to an end. It's 5 years we've been driving this car. It's the last of the rotary engines for right now. I guess it's going on a bit of a hiatus. I ran into Sylvain before the race. We were in the bathroom and we sort of teared up a little bit. It's kind of sad to see this car go. It sounds great. It has a great following. It's been an incredible experience for me. A lot of highs and lows, and certainly getting on the podium at Daytona in the car with Charles and Jonah was a dream come true. And it's been a trying weekend, but at least we're here, we're racing. It's a great facility, and the support of Mazda and all our sponsors to make this possible. I can't thank them enough.
Now, you've really built an incredible organization, came from the Continental Tire Challenge into the Rolex Series, also some prototype racing. How do you see sports car racing here in the future?
Well, I think we're at a really interesting turning point. And if everybody gets together and really thinks about what is ultimately right for the series and for the future, and we don't let politics or ego get in the way, I think there's a real opportunity to bring it back to the levels that it was at after the Second World War, when sports car racing was brought over by a lot of the veterans in the exotic cars. I think that's what people really love about the American Le Mans Series, is that these cars are just absolutely works of art, just on a physical side and also on the technical side. I think it would be a huge mistake to just dumb them down. I think we need to get to green flag racing. When they wave when we start, you go as soon as you see green, no matter where you are. Waiting to the start finish, to me, is a big, big mistake. We saw that in the drivers' meeting this morning. So if we can make these small adjustments, there are a lot of really smart people behind this, a lot of passionate people behind it. I think the fans need to speak up and tell them what they want to see, because they are doing it for them. And I'm just happy to be racing. I think it's a great group of people, an incredible fellowship, and it's sad to see this car go, I gotta tell you.
Well, hopefully we'll see many more years of Dempsey racing. Brian?
Yeah, but there are Mazdas running up in front in GT right now. Dane Cameron trying to save tires. The 70, just one more stop for them, but Michael Shank, you guys running up front overall with Oz Negre. I know you and I talked about what could have been, what should have been this year, and you said you're going to use some pretty aggressive strategy to win this race. How aggressive are you going to be with 2 stops to go?
Very aggressive. I mean, the aggression got us to P1 here. Both John and Oz are doing a great job. The crew called an excellent strategy and did a great stop. We're super happy. We're going to keep pushing. It's a big chess match right now. That last stop is going to determine the race. The cars are so close. Track position is everything. Happy birthday to Jason Prozek, 40 years old today.
Hey, Ford Turbo real quick. Where's that power plant? When are we going to see it run? When's it going to test?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. We'll have a formal announcement soon, but we'll see it out in October, I hope. And keep your eyes open. That's going to be a great new thing for 2013.
Mike Shank has a big history here. Oz Negre qualified on pole the very first time the Rolex Sports Car Series raced here at Mazda Raceway.
Oz has an 8.5-second lead over the new second-place man, Richard Westbrook. So we'll see what kind of speed that Spirit of Daytona Corvette has versus this Ford-powered Riley.
Last time by, they were within 1/10 of a second of each other, advantage to Westbrook, but he isn't taking big chunks out of that lead right now, but he does have a clear track ahead of him, Dorsey.
While we were talking to we were talking to Patrick Dempsey there, a significant pit stop at 10. Max Angelelli came in and did a routine pit stop, and he now has got track position when these guys start coming back in.
Car 10 is in position 10. It's Negri, then this man Westbrook, then D. Allen Pruitt is 4th, Donahue 5th. Gurney has worked his way back to 6th, some 12 seconds behind our race leader. Then Popov, so Tagliani's yet to get back in the 2. Barbosa, Brown, and Angelelli. That's your top 10 at the moment.
Yeah, this is fascinating stuff. Here we see Gurney trying to fight his way back through the field. That was a crucial penalty. I mean, it was hard on Alex Gurney. I mean, he had a head of steam there on the move on Pruitt, but he should know better. I mean, that was talked about deliberately in the drivers' meeting this morning. Patrick Dempsey talked about the compassion, the passionate people in this sport. That drivers' meeting this morning, Dorsey, was pretty passionate. There's a lot of fired up drivers about this restart rule. Fortunately, so far today, it has not been a factor.
Well, you see so many people go down into turn 2 and they go to the outside, and you wonder why they're trying an outside pass. That's the reason right there. You can't go inside that white line, and if you do, you get the penalty. Alex paid a great price for making that small error.
Championship rivals here, Ryan Dial, Scott Pruitt. Then it's David Donahue fending off a determined Alex Gurney.
He is
one
fast.
One more caution is all that 99 needs.
Yeah, he's got some speed. He's going to need a little bit of help. As you said, he needs a caution to really close the gap on the leaders right now, Negri and Westbrook, but he seems like he's got the pace over these cars right now that are duking out for 3rd. Dial hits pit lane.
Incidentally, the margin 1-2. Negri lost over 2 seconds on that last lap. So it's down to 6.3. Negri versus Westbrook. That Spirit of Daytona Corvette is flying.
Well, Ryan Dial and going to do fuel tires, going to make an air pressure adjustment. We heard Peter Barron say earlier that that's what they did when Alex Tagliani was having such a tough time with this car. Well, this car has definitely come around since they made that air pressure adjustment. And just another little adjustment because the car is still a little bit loose, but great stop. Tires done, just waiting on fuel.
Now, Calvin, looking at this deal, Richard Westbrook and Alex Gurney have the 2 fastest cars on the track. But in saying that, it's only by tenths. It's not by much. So these strategies are really important.
Yeah, that's what Mike Shank said. It's going to come down to the final pit stop.
1¼ hours remaining in this 2-hour 45-minute race. After today, there's only one round left in this championship. We welcome you back to Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish, Dorsey Schrader, Brian Till and Chris Neville enjoying sports cars on speed. And let's give you some championship point scenarios. Let's talk about GT, because that's the one that's more than likely going to fall here today. But as they run at the moment, Asentado and Siegel would not clinch. They need to leave here with at least a 35-point advantage.
Yeah, but it would pretty much be game over. Here we see our leader, Dane Cameron, and Brian's there.
Now, one of the most impressive drives today has been by Dane Cameron. He and Wayne Nonemaker. 43. Katie Crawford was saying a little bit earlier, Dane, tires, that is the key. Conserve the tires. They're afraid without some yellow, though, they may have to make one more stop for a splash.
Oh, for sure. These GT cars will only go about 45 minutes, so hour and 10 on the board here. They're going to need pit lane again, and I think it's really a question of how you strategize. Do you split that to try and give an even stint on both? Or do you try and minimize the time in pit lane for that last one?
Super battle going on here in GT between two rival Porsche teams. Brumos at the front in the 59 with Lee Keen. 44, the Magnus car of Andy Lally. Two championship-winning drivers, two great Porsche teams, two great cars, and they're scrapping at it while the overall leader is coming hard on them. Here's
Calvin, you talk about the strategy as when to make that stop. I talked to Katie and she said, you know, we're going to need another one. And I said, well, when do you make it? And she looked at me and gave me a wry smile. I said, go big or go home. She said, absolutely, we're going to gamble big time.
That'd be so cool if they could win here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Here we see Andy Lally in pit lane. This Porsche's been fast, but they've been really working hard and trying to keep the rear tires underneath it.
Andy said
tough racetrack.
Chris?
Yeah, Calvin, you just said it, keeping the rear tires underneath this Porsche. I spoke to Andy before he got behind the wheel, and he said after about 5 laps, the car starts to get loose, and then it just gets looser and looser and looser over the run. Just checked in with the team, and they said that's exactly what's happening, but they think it's better than everybody else because at the end of this run, Andy was one of the quickest GT cars on the racetrack. So fuel and tires on this stop, and they will be back in for one more stop later in this race.
Andy the other day, he said they put a lot of understeer in the car, and he thought he put too much in. He goes, he started and he said the first 3 laps on new tires, you can't make your car turn. He gets really happy for about 2 more laps, and then you got the grade of the back.
It's loose again.
Yeah, it's loose.
I can tell you that up front in Daytona Prototypes, Alex Gurney in the 99 Bob Stallings Gainsco Corvette has got by David Donahue. So the Red Dragon is up into the top 4. Let's show you how it happened. It was just a few moments ago.
You see good run off at turn 11.
Whoa,
there
boy.
you see Donahue trying to move over on him, and Alex basically leans the other way. He realizes if he lets him pinch him too much, he's going to have a problem right there. So we tried to open the door before he got in that problem area. Westbrook is on a charge right now. He has narrowed that gap that at one point was up to 6 seconds on the lead. Negri. It is now down to 1.8, and we're on board with Scott Pruitt, who currently sits in the 3rd position.
Yeah, you won't see Gurney going inside that white line anymore, and I don't care if somebody's pushing on him or not, it's not going to happen.
Pruitt is 5 seconds behind this man here. Richard Westbrook, who has just eaten Negri's lead up. Just under 2 seconds. One point in time we looked, it was 8.3 seconds. So that Spirit of Daytona car is moving.
And the big difference is he can see him now. I mean, when you're 8 seconds back, you can't really see him. But when you're 2 seconds back, there's trouble brewing.
Well, the big key for Westbrook was being patient when he was behind Ryan Dial. Certainly it seemed like he had more pace, but he just drove a brilliant race in not trying to force it too early. He realized there was a long way to go, and he had a very fast car. The Spirit Daytona boys have really been struggling. They've been breaking the half shafts on that car. They try to run a low downforce setup where you actually run the ride height a lot lower to the ground, put a lot more angularity into the rear drive shafts, Dorsey, and that was causing a problem for them. They've suddenly realized it. They feel they're on top of that game now.
On board with our championship leaders in GT, the AIM Autosport Team FXDD and Jeff Siegel.
Guys are playing it pretty smart, looking at the big picture on this championship. They're not getting in harm's way with this.
Really nice compliment for this young man. He's already won 1 Grand Am GT championship. Mentioned earlier the gentleman Maurizio Nardon from Ferrari in his own career. At one point in time, he was Nigel Mansell's engineer at Ferrari Formula One. He paid Jeff Siegel a very big compliment. He said, "I'm impressed by this young guy and his technical feedback."
Technical feedback, he's smart, he's quick, he's savvy though, Dorsey. I mean, he has really managed this championship season superbly well.
He knows how to play the game, Calvin, no doubt about it. He doesn't show his hand if he doesn't need to, and that's a smart driver.
Pretty big compliment, Brian, for Jeff Siegel at the 69 team.
Oh, it's a huge compliment. And I was talking to Jeff earlier, and he said, you know, we just got to keep our head down and do what we've been doing all year long. And I said, come on, you've got to know the calculations as to what's going to win you the championship. And he kind of grinned, and he pulled out his phone and brought up a spreadsheet of all the different possibilities. He said, yeah, I'd like to say I'm not thinking about it, but I've kind of worked out the scenarios. I know exactly what I've got to do.
Well, and this is a lot less tense and intense than when they won the championship a couple of years ago when they were driving the Speed Source Mazda. They've got a much larger cushion. We need to squeeze in a quick break, but we've got so much more to go. Just a little over a full hour to run here in California. Pit stops occurring while we're in that last break. This just a few moments ago. The 01 Ganassi in with Scott Pruitt behind the wheel.
Came in with 65 minutes to go. They can't make it on fuel without some help from yellow. So this is really a strategy call by Timmy King. Good clean. Oh, they had to reconnect the fueling there. Weren't sure they were topped up. That was a precious second or two right there. Very rare do you see that miscue with the Ganassi organization.
And then you noticed in front, Alex Popov bringing the number 2 Starworks Ford in. Tagliani back behind the wheel.
That's been interesting. These are all planned stops. We're watching to see who's most efficient of all these pit stops that we saw. And Calvin, you know what they probably saw in the site class, that it didn't take a full load of fuel. They had to reconnect that.
That was strange, unless the valve was still open or something. Something went amiss there. They had to reconnect it. It was so quick, though. Very bizarre.
Extra time here on the driver change.
And then you notice the Grand Am official there notifying one of the Starworks crew members about a loose dive plane on the front there, and then he had to remove it.
And we saw our leader hit pit lane. This is Oz Negri. He said Westbrook, stay out. Who's currently in the second position. He'll assume the lead of this race. Ken Shank Racing and the boys perform the perfect pit stop. They need it. Remember, Pruitt stopped just one lap earlier. The key is to get him out. Pruitt's going to have hot rubber.
And do you remember at Montreal at our last race, the agonizing and the frustration for these guys when Oz had to pit with just 4 laps remaining.
They're going to take a full load of fuel for sure. Look at that. They got the windshield tear off clean. They got all the tires on, Cal. Still waiting on fuel. It's going to be a good stop.
Agonizing moments. Burnout by Oz. The question is Pruitt going to be close to him?
Now we're back to live pictures, and Richard Westbrook will be done. It's Antonio Garcia's turn. The super quick Spaniard opens the door for his teammate. Boy, what a partnership these guys are.
Troy Fliss said, yeah, he was getting his money out of Richard Westbrook today. He said he hadn't gotten to drive that much lately, so he was going to use him. Use him, he did. The 99 also in the Red Dragon, trying to take another victory, making it 3 in a row here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Garcia in, routine stop, just waiting for the fuel. All of these teams trying to get every single drop, and I think that's what you saw in the 01. Just sticking that probe back in, taking a couple of seconds to make sure that they were completely full. But remember, it was a pit lane error last year that cost the 01 the victory here.
Good recovery there by the 99. They're back in the mix. The key is going to be now, where is Negri? Where is Pruitt? They've made their pit stops. They're going to be coming hard on hot tires.
There we go, on board with Pruitt, and he's right behind Oz Negri.
And here comes the fray right behind them.
That's the 7 of Colin Brown.
Big difference here. These guys have got a lap on these tires, so they've got heat in them. We're going to be pretty good laps. The guys leaving the pits are going to struggle for at least half this lap.
I'm not sure if these guys have gotten around the 90 machine, boys. I don't see the 90 in the frame.
I don't think he got out that fast. There it is right
Look
there.
at that. That is huge. That is huge. I wonder if Westbrook hit traffic on his in-lap. That had to be it, because there was no miscue on that fueling or tire change, so I have to think that maybe Westy caught some traffic on his in-lap, which must have been critical.
All right, let's find out. Let's hear from Richard Westbrook. Brian's there.
I said Troy Fliss was going to get all of his money out of Westbrook. He's now talking to his engineer. up on the stand right now. And Richard, great stint. Troy said he was going to work you hard. He did. You guys were wondering if you caught some traffic on that in-lap. It seems like Garcia's back a little bit after the stop.
Yeah, I got stuck behind the number 2, and he was on an out lap, and he was driving pretty slow, and it's very difficult to overtake here. So ideally, we should have lapped before, but trying to work out where we're going to filter through. I guess as we're behind the 60. But yeah, the car's great, the team are great, and it's been a great week. Smashing Calvin at Lee at Bolt, and now we're doing well. We just want to finish it off now.
Yep, they've got a good car and they want to take victory number 3, but they also want to make sure that they beat you and Lee, Calvin, when they have their golf rematch later this year.
That's really not the true story.
And it's not the true story at all.
Here we go.
What happened was we won the first 18 holes, Calvin and myself against Garcia and Westbrook. We had a little bit of lunch, decided to play another 18 holes, and Calvin and I have had a rigorous schedule this summer. We got tired on the back 9 on the second 18, so we let them win. We just wanted to relax.
Antonio was going to cry if he had to buy dinner. So.
Should I bring up age here?
Fitness was nothing to do with it, though.
Okay.
Up to the corkscrew. You're looking at first and second here. We're on board with Scott Pruitt, chasing Negri. These guys have had some tremendous scraps over the years. The Brazilian and the American. For Scott Pruitt, he hails from just up the road, just north of Sacramento and Roseville. And a really special moment for Scott. He's got his mum and dad here. Bob and Nancy Pruitt are here in their motorhome watching. The 9 Action Express car is on the lane.
Yeah, and Joao Barbosa, he had cycled to the top of the leaderboard here as all the other leaders had come in, but I think once this stop gets done, he's going to be about 15 to 20 seconds behind the leaders. This car is still very loose, and Barbosa sliding through the pit box, a little bit deep in the box, so the team having to push him back, but some damage up at the front of the car too, with one of the dive flames and also the radiator grill, but right now just waiting on fuel. Brian?
Down in Brumos, Lee Keen brings the famous 59 in. Defending champions in GT looking for their first win of the 2012 season. And right now, Keen a little close to the wall. It's going to make it difficult for those left side tires, especially the front, to go on. They started the weekend struggling with balance, but I talked to Lee just before the race. Said he thinks they found it in qualifying and even better in the warm-up. Should have a good Porsche underneath him when he heads back out.
Question's going to be fuel, Brian. Just under 57 minutes to go. The numbers I was getting from GT teams was 50 to 55 minutes, so they might be able to squeak it. This will be down to fumes if they do.
This is the man to beat Dane Cameron and the Team Salem RX-8, and it has just been a wonderful day for these guys and for Wayne Nonamaker. Remember, this is the team that's switching to Daytona prototypes next year. Gone are the RX-8s, and they make the big step up to the big league. Want to take you back just a few moments ago. Check this out between first and second overall. Negri and Pruitt. You're riding on board with Pruitt.
The run out of 6, climbing the Rahal straightaway up towards the keyhole. Really tough to get past done here. Pruitt slides to the inside. There's a light touch. Beautiful move. This is now for second spot as Ryan Dial, after his pit stop a little bit earlier than these guys, does have the lead of this motor race.
All right, so the time check. Let's keep an eye on this and remember this. From where Pruitt is to where Garcia is in fourth is 14.6 seconds. 14 seconds. I want you to remember that because that 90 will make progress. It's going to come and catch these guys. So Pruitt to the front. Remember, we told you right at the top of the show, he's going to do what he always does, maximum attack. Here on the Monterey Peninsula, we are riding aboard the number 70 Speed Source Mazda with local driver Jonathan Bomarito behind the wheel. At his home track, family and friends here. Even saw a bunch of people with Bomarito t-shirts on in the paddock area. That just shows you the difference in speed between a Daytona prototype and a GT car. That was Max Angelelli whipping by in the number 10 machine, the Toshiba car, and at the moment Angelelli's running in 6th place. Well, we had Ed Bennett, the president and CEO of Grand Am, in here a little earlier. We showed you the historic press conference from earlier in the week about the merger between Grand Am and the American Le Mans Series. How about the drivers? What do they think? Let's hear their thoughts.
I think both series learned a lot of valuable lessons in the last decade on what to do right, what to do wrong, and hopefully the merger will, create something that is stronger than we've ever seen before.
It's going to make sports car racing very, very strong in the States and take it to a place where it should be. you know, if they get it right, there's a lot of decisions to be made. If they get it right, I think they're onto a winner.
You take the strengths of Grand Am and what NASCAR brings to the table and the strength of the American Le Mans Series and put everybody together. I'm looking forward to a great competition, hopefully a great schedule.
Big moment for sports car racing. I think a lot of people have been wanting to see this for a long time.
You know, we're pulling all the best tracks, all the best drivers, best teams. I mean, you know, and now we have, you know, one fan base. We're going to take the fans from both series. It's going to be great. I'm really, really excited to be a part of it.
And those positive thoughts are shared right throughout the paddock on both series, that's for sure. So here's the man who was just speaking, Bomarito. He's a little further down the order than where he'd like to be. He's in 9th at the moment. This is our race leader, the 8 of Ryan Dial. The 60 is back on pit road, Brian.
Here we go. The cards are being played here in this final hand. He's back out. That's the last time you'll see him on pit road today.
What's the golden rule, Cal? Be the first.
Yep, to make your final pit stop, because if there is a yellow, pit lane gets closed and these guys will cycle to the front. So it's a good strategy call by Mike Shank and the boys. They've been really calling some great races. Needed a little bit of luck at Montreal. They were literally a gallon and a half shy of making it to the finish without needing that final splash. That cost them dearly, but today they are on the money. They can now get to the finish on fuel at least. They just need things to fall their way a little bit.
And it's a fast race car too, no doubt about that. I mean, we're talking about the fact that, you know, a couple other cars might be a tenth or two quicker, but with Oz behind the wheel, he's not going to let anybody by him very easily, and I think that's a great call right there.
Speaking of being quicker, when we went to the break, race leader Ryan Dial had a 5.1 second lead over Scott Pruitt. That's now down to 2.9 seconds. And what about Antonio Garcia? We made mention about, keep in mind that 14.3 seconds. Where is he in relation to our race leader? That's now down to 12. Here they come.
It's going to be critical. Ryan Dial has 10 minutes less fuel on board than the rest of this DP field, so he's going to have to hit pit lane pretty shortly as well. Typically there's a domino effect. Once one of those leaders makes that pit stop, typically you're going to come with. Here we see Pruitt trying to hound and hunt down Ryan Dial. They are running 1-2 on the racetrack. Pruitt has the lead in the championship, of course.
How many times have we seen that, Dawes? The top 2 in the championship or the top 2 in the race?
And Pruitt has been really, really aggressive with traffic. When he's going through these GT cars, he's holding no quarters, guys. I mean, he's got his arms out right now.
Hey, Chris, tell us more about the 8, the Starworks Ford of Ryan Dial.
Well, they were really watching that 60-car pit stop. These guys are planning to come in about the next 15 minutes. They might come in earlier now, but the one thing they really saw there was no tires on that stop. So this team trying to figure out, are they going to go no tires, or are they going to put tires on Ryan Dial?
Well, I think you've got to go tires. I think you really have to. I think you're really going to compromise your ability to win this race, and they have to win. They need maximum points if they're going to claw that gap down to Pruitt and Rojas before Lime Rock.
Yeah, that's not the fastest car on the racetrack, so it's going to need all the speed advantage it can get.
This man here, we told you earlier in the show, knows how to get it done at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. He won here several years ago. It was an emphatic victory for Peter Barron's Starworks team. He won with Henry Zogabe, who is no longer racing in sports cars. And that was just a magical day. Now, speaking of championship contenders, let's show you something that went down not long ago with the GT championship leader, Jeff Siegel. Check this out. Coming up on Will Nonamaker in the 49 Salins. Whoa.
Wow, the 31 had a run on him, and he went to go around him, had to check up and just touched him.
Will got on the brakes. I mean, got on the brake pedal in the middle of the straightaway.
Yeah.
That could have been massive. Wow. That could have been huge. In a negative way.
In a very negative way.
Got away one there. Looking at the front end of this Ferrari, see a little bit of damage on basically what would be the front bumper just under the headlight, but nothing massive. Whew, he dodged a bullet there.
He did. I mean, I think Will looked up and saw it was going to go 3 wide. He wanted to try to get out of the way and be a nice guy about it. Got on the brake pedal and almost caused a big one.
Did cost Jeff a position. Eric Curran behind the wheel of the 31 machine, which is having a good strong run here for Whelan.
It shows you the impact that Daytona prototypes have on GT car racing there. They pop in, pop out, disappear, but you've always got to keep your eye out for them. That's the 7 of Colin Brown. He's running in the 10th position at the moment. Dial, 4.5 seconds in the lead over Pruitt. Garcia has now trimmed it to 11.4 seconds. So in the last 2.5 laps, it's gone down nearly 3 seconds, the margin to the leader.
Dial still running pretty strong lap times. The best time of the day in the 8 machine is a 23.1. He just ran a 23.4. That may be the gauge that the Star Wars boys are going to call in terms of when they pit Ryan Dial. As soon as those lap times start to fall off, get some fresh rubber on that car.
Got about 5 cars that can run in the 23s. The rest of them are just out of that. And they only stay there, Calvin, for maybe 8-10 laps, and they start dropping into 24s like you're talking about, or worse, as those tires degrade.
46 minutes remaining here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Let's update you on GT. Dane Cameron has a 13.5-second lead over Andy Lally. They're slightly off sequence, though, on their pit stops. Olivier Beretta in that new Scuderia Corsa Ferrari 458 is in third. Eric Curran, who you saw made that blistering pass through turn 1 over the crest of the hill, is in fourth over Jeff Siegel, fifth. Robin Liddell, sixth, and Lee Keane is in seventh. That brings you up to date on the serious players in the prominent positions.
Yeah, we're looking at Dane Cameron, our leader. They are off sequence, but his advantage, Dane Cameron, not Andy Lally, who's second right now. I mean, these guys are in great shape. They're looking really strong right now.
Dane did such a great job of running the Ferrari down and getting by earlier on. So it's a very, very good car, no doubt about that.
Big month for Dane. He's going to be married to his fiancée Sarah in a couple of weeks in Atlanta. Everyone looking forward to that. The 01. We're hearing maybe on pit lane. Here he is.
Crucial final stop. It's got to be Ganassi-esque.
This is going to be a splash. They don't need very much at all. Probably about 5 seconds of fuel. Brian?
That's fuel only, just as you called it. And this is the one that's critical. Last year, Scott Pruitt slid through the box. It cost them the race. Right on the marks this time. And I know it seems like a long time to me, but I'm sure it feels even longer for Pruitt as he sits in there waiting to get everything.
I wonder if there's a problem on that last refuel, but
they didn't get enough in.
They didn't get enough in. They didn't get him topped up because he should not. If that was topped up before, that should have not taken that amount of time to get him re-topped up.
Inside the final 45 minutes, it's going to be good. Is it Dial? Is it Garcia? Is it Gurney? Is it Pruitt? Or is Mike Shank Racing and Oz Negri going to pull one out? Riding on board with Scott Pruitt. So that last stop out of the way. He's good to go to the end. Will we see it caution-free? We've only had 2 full course cautions. This time last year we had 3 for a total of 13 laps. And it's been a good green flag run.
Currently in 8th position, but we're getting back to that stop before the last one. Remember when we saw this? Pulled it out, reconnected. I think there was an issue in getting him topped up because on this last pit stop we just watched, which was really long to top him up with fuel, there's no way he could have used that much fuel if he was topped up completely before. And the reason is what it's resulted in, Oz Negri, who made his pit stop for just a splash, is 4 positions higher than Scott Pruitt right now. That was the result. That was the outcome.
We're expecting Dial in the next half a dozen laps for his final stop. Time check, 39.5 minutes to go. Dial, Garcia, Gurney, Angelelli, Negri, Barbosa, Donahue, Pruitt, then Tagliani and Brown in the top 10. Tell us more about Dial, Chris.
Well, there's been a lot of debate, lots of communication back and forth between the pit box here and Ryan Dial asking about what they should do with the tires because they saw the 01 and the 60 not take tires. Pretty much Ryan just said if they don't take tires, his rears will be shot at the end of this race. So I'm anticipating the 8 car is going to take tires on this stop. I think they're going to be in about 4 laps. And of the cars that pitted, he's about 39 seconds ahead of the 60 car. So these guys are going to have a great pit stop.
Yeah, it's about 18.5 seconds the delta. That's the time lost between staying on the racetrack and driving down pit lane. That doesn't account for the servicing, so it's going to be really close. But they have to focus on the 01 car. They've got to beat those guys. And remember, if Dial stays on this set of tires, that means he would have done an hour and 15 minutes on this set of tires. They're going to be rooted at the end.
Come now, come earlier. Well, you've got that advantage back to Negri and Pruitt.
Right now, he's running good lap times, 23.90. That's not
the key.
bad. That's good, but it's going to fall off. He's telling them right now, I'm going to have rear tire problems if we don't do this. They need to take tires.
The other thing they're rolling the dice on, if there was a caution, they're going to lose this lead. Pruitt and Negri would immediately leapfrog ahead of them. So they are really rolling the dice by waiting. I think they need to get him in soon.
Do it now, do it sooner rather than later. Keeping you up to date with our GT Championship leader, Jeff Siegel, has now worked his way into 3rd place, but that's not without a scary moment if you didn't see it earlier. Here it is again. He's coming up on Will Nonamaker, but as well as looking straight ahead, look to the left. Boom. There's the contact. There goes Eric Curran. That was a close call.
Saw the brake lights on Will. He looked in his mirror and said, oh, I don't want any part of this. Jeff had nowhere to go.
You don't expect someone to brake in the middle of the straightaway. You know, it's like, it's not normal.
Unless Diffie's behind the wheel.
Let's go to the AIM Autosport team. Brian is there.
Ian Willis watching on, and Ian, it's been a while since you guys were in, and I'm thinking that you're going to need a caution if you're going to make it to the end. Do you go ahead and sacrifice track position now and pull him in, or do you gamble?
We're just working on that right now. I think we were hoping for a yellow. The way things are going, it doesn't look like we're going to get one. So we'll probably come in and play it safe. We're not in a position with the championship to take a gamble at this point.
Play it safe is what they're talking about. Hey, an update on a couple other cars. The 43 was in. They took tires and fuels just a moment ago. I checked with the 59, the Brumo squad. They made a stop with 57 minutes left to go. I asked them how long they could run on a tank. 55 minutes was the answer, so they may be in a tough spot as well.
Yeah, real tough spot. Dane Cameron's looking like he's in great shape. Strategy-wise, that team led by Grady Crawford is doing a brilliant job today.
So positions as they run at the moment in GT, it's Andy Lally who leads in the Magnus Racing Porsche over Olivier Beretta in that Scuderia Corsa Ferrari, then Jeff Siegel, then Dane Cameron, then Johannes van Overbeek in the Patron in the Extreme Speed Ferrari, then this man here, Lee Keane, and Eric Curran is in the 7th position. Billy Aublin, Robin Liddell, and then Jonathan Bomarito round out the 10 in the GT class. Boy, this is in stark contrast to yesterday's race as far as cautions, green flag running and cautions.
You talked about Garcia as well at the front of the pack, talking DPs right now for a moment. Dial's lead is trimmed to 6 seconds. Who's the man behind him? Antonio Garcia in the Spirit of Daytona Corvette.
And remember, I asked you to remember that number. 14.3 seconds. It's now 6.3 seconds. Garcia's taken 8 seconds out of him.
He has. Meanwhile, GT leader Andy Lally is now starting to feel the pressure from Olivier Beretta. But these guys, along with Jeff Siegel, as we just spoke to, Ian Willis, AIM Autosport, they're going to need fuel. Dane Cameron in 4th. He's good to go.
That would be special. Salen's winning. A Mazda winning at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
Of course, the big news at Watkins Glen was the fact that the Salens team is switching up to Daytona prototypes for next year with BMW power. They're purchasing 2 Gen 2. Riley's having those converted to the current Gen 3 spec. It's a big move for that small team, but one that is certainly welcomed in the DP ranks.
Race leader Ryan Dial, again, does not come down pit road for that final stop. He flashes across the line, and here's Garcia. 6.3 seconds is now 4.2.
I don't get this. I don't get it at all. Why don't they get him in now? He's losing a lot of ground to the Garcia, who's coming like a freight train, and it gives him more time to make up the speed with the new tires and so forth. I just don't get why they're not pulling it in.
They're rolling the dice. Hopefully it'll work for Peter Barron and his crew, because they had a rough one at Montreal. They really did.
And watching Lee Keane, too, in the Brumos Porsche, and guys, to me, it looks like he's losing his rear tires. The back of the Porsche really starting to slide.
We've seen a blip by the Ganassi boys. Something has gone amiss on those 2 pit stops with the refueling. Don't hand it back to them. You've got to execute now.
How about the 99, Alex Gurney? He's 6 seconds in arrears of our leader. His last stop was some 18 laps ago.
Well, we are one caution away from having one whale of a finish.
Oh, yeah.
Garcia and Gurney on the same strategy. They pitted 18 laps ago. Dial's was 28 laps ago. GT leader in, Lally.
John Bedell and his men servicing Lally for the final time.
I've been listening to Andy Lally on the radio for about the last half an hour, and it's been all about just being consistent, taking care of the rear tires. It hasn't been about trying to put together a real fast lap, and he was extremely consistent through this entire run. So that final pit stop for the 44 car, already done the fuel, just waiting on the left rear. That car down and away.
Minimal delay there with the left rear, but didn't cost him any time. Maybe half a second there just as the fuel probe was being pulled. So decent stop, shouldn't cost him anything.
We're hearing a whisper that Dial may be headed to pit road this time by.
Got to be the pit stop of all pit stops. They need the pit stop of the year from the Starworks boys. That was tight there.
Yeah.
Tagliani carving across the front of Olivier Beretta there.
You'll see this Ferrari come to pit road one more time as well. The hands of Olivier Beretta.
Got a mark on it. Beautiful.
Beretta's won here with the Orica squad with the Chrysler Viper. He's won here with the Corvette racing team in ALMS competition. He'd love to do it here today. Here he comes.
Been a great weekend for these guys. And they're looking at participating in the series full-time in 2013, which would be terrific.
Olivier's off to Brazil next weekend for a round of the WEC Championship, Brian.
It'll be tires and fuel. I talked to the team earlier today, and they said this is a warm-up for the Rolex 24. They want to go and make a statement. They are 100% committed to that, and then 90% committed to the rest of the year. They want to run the North American Endurance Championship as the 8 flashes by, and Beretta will head back out. Meanwhile, the 8 heads down to his pit stall.
Brian, the key with this stop is 22 seconds. This team has to do fuel and tires in under 22 seconds because that's how long the Ganassi car was in the box behind him. All the Ganassi crew up on the wall watching the 18 here. Done with tires on the right side. Looks like we're only going to do right side rubber on the 8 car. Waiting on fuel.
Where does he rejoin?
19 and a half seconds. 19 and a half seconds on the 8 car.
Nice call, strong call. I like it, Brian. Right side tires only.
I was thinking about 2 tires on the GT cars coming up to get track position 2 coming up at the end of this race.
Max Angelelli in the SunTrust machine. Toshiba on the side this weekend. Very unhappy with the balance of the car all day long. He's been saying, are my tire temperatures, are my pressures right in the back? It doesn't feel good. Remember, this is but it is the only Dallara chassis Corvette in the field.
All right, where has this man come back out on the racetrack? Where are his rivals? There's Osnegri right there. So it worked. As Chris said, it was 19 seconds. They knew they had 22 to work with, so he's come out ahead of Osnegri. How far further behind is Pruitt? About another 5 or 6 seconds further back down the road. Here's the 01.
And how mismatched will that chassis be with the 2 call, you know? It takes a few laps for that to come in.
Yeah, you got to be careful there. So Ryan Dalziel's got to draw on every ounce of experience that he has to deal with that race car until those right side tires come up to pressure, come up to temperature. But it was a brilliant call by the Starworks boys. So we're seeing how the cards have shuffled right now between the 60, the 01 and the 8. Obviously the next ones to drop will be the 90 and the 99 who currently lead this race.
So as we run with just half an hour remaining, this championship goes to the final race at Lime Rock Park. It won't be decided here today. Ganassi will be ruining that error on pit road. See you in a moment. Barrett Jackson, Las Vegas. Here's what's happened today. Just a number of the things. Scott Mayer spinning at the top of the corkscrew in the Starworks machine. No harm done. Some tough driving here, Dorse.
Good car, hard racing. Jim Norman doesn't leave much room, and a little contact made.
And this was a great move, Cal, by Memo Rojas.
Memo Rojas had to get the job done. He's being delayed a little bit behind Ricky Taylor. Tucks it to the inside on turn 6. Nice clean pass. Then we saw a little bit of a miscue here. We were going yellow. We thought the Ganassi boys had got Rojas into pit lane before these red lights were flashing. Stewart said no, and then bronze for the 99, Doris.
Yeah, that was just a fuel stop done, and the vent stuck open and lost probably half gallon of fuel right there.
And then this for Alex Gurney, executing a move on Scott Pruitt, but look where he is in relation to the white line. Going over there into pit lane across the painted white lines, not allowed, and Alex had to serve a drive-through penalty.
Some argy-bargy in the GT camps again. 41 car involved once again. It's been a hard-fought race here.
Maybe that was a little payback attempt from earlier.
This didn't work either, top of the hill, and that drew penalty.
Colin Brown there getting into the GT traffic, didn't give them enough racing room. And look at this, our championship leader, Jeff Siegel, suddenly caught unawares when Will Nonamaker hits the brakes at the crest. Got away with it.
How many cars are in between me and you? 2 cars between you and DL. The 9 car may have to stop. They may be saving fuel. We're not sure. They would have to save a lot of fuel, though.
Communication between Scott Pruitt and Ganassi team manager Tim Keane. Pruitt runs 6th at the moment. Dial runs 3rd. Why are we talking about those guys? They're the championship rivals. At the moment, Antonio Garcia leads this race by 1.7 seconds over fellow Corvette driver Alex Gurney. We do not know if they can go all the way.
I think they're about 8 minutes shy. What are you hearing down there, Brian?
Yeah, I checked with Troy Fliss. He just shook his head. He said, we're not good. We're going to be about 6 or 7 minutes shy.
You're going to watch Troy for the go.
And you hear the radio right there, 99 as well. They say we need a yellow. The 60, though, they are good. So 3 of of the cars in the top 4, 2 of them need fuel.
They're going to be a time stop only with no tires, Cal. That's going to have to be critical to getting out of that pit.
Yeah, with such a short fill, you can't afford to stop and take tires. DL needed a lot more fuel, so that and they just did the 2 tire change, so that equates to the amount of time taken to put the fuel in. For these boys, it's just going to be a splash. I hate time fills, though. I'd hate to be the man making that call. You can so easily get it wrong, and will that be advantage DL, who needs maximum points here today, currently running 3rd.
Calvin, you were just talking about that 18 changing just right side rubber on the car, and I just went and took a look at the tires that were taken off that car. Definitely the rear's more worn than the front tire that came off. But Dorsey, how difficult is it? Obviously this racetrack, lots of left-hand corners. How difficult is it to drive a car when you change it in the sense of putting new tires on one side and old tires on the other? Actually, we got the 90 car in.
Time stop. Gary Grossenbacher standing back over the wall, counting. Pull that probe, and Garcia back underway.
Yeah, Chris, you were right. We were talking about that before. You have to be on top of your game to get that 2-tire change because you got 2 hot tires on the inside, and those outside tires don't have grip for a lap or 2. You got to be very careful.
Where does Garcia cycle back into this in relation to Ryan Dial? There was a 32-second gap between he and Dial.
He should be fine, Lee, because I mean it's about 18.5 seconds the time last down pit lane. Looked like about a 4 or 5 second halt for him for that fuel, so we'll have to wait and see.
Looking.
He should have 8 to 10 seconds, I would think, on him still. There he is. So that's an easy one. So that's a nice call now for the 99 car. They could see the outcome. The worst thing they're going to do by stopping right now is finish 2nd, but they haven't won yet this year. Will they roll the dice?
Tell us more about that Spirit of Daytona stop, Brian.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of times on a time stop, the crew chief will have a stopwatch and a stick and tap the fueler on the back. They left it up to the fueler this time. They said, this is how many seconds you need to do it. Count 1,001, 1,002, however many you need. Watch the fuel go and then pull it yourself. So no stopwatch there, no tap on the back. It was up to the fueler to take care of it. And the 99 is going to be coming here shortly, I would imagine.
And this is a killer. This is a killer. He just hit a gaggle of GT cars, which will have cost him probably 2 to 3 seconds. So if he does decide they're going to stop for a splash of fuel, that will be the advantage to the 90 team. Look at this. He's just stacked up, going nowhere.
If he could have got in the pits just then, when he saw all those GT cars, he should have got in if he could, because this held him up a ton.
Yeah, you almost need a plan B. You almost need to tell the driver, if you suddenly get hung up in traffic, Alex, hit pit lane, we'll be ready. That was obviously not the call made. They're either rolling the dice to the finish, hoping for yellow, or trying to put Alex in fuel save mode, but that would have to be a big one. We could tell he's probably 6, 7, 8 minutes shy.
Remember, it was GT traffic that cost Alex Gurney and John Fogarty the win at the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen this year. He gets the signal by then, but how much damage has it done?
Well, we're hearing that Alex thought he was supposed to come in. That's why he braked and got behind those GT cars, and then they told him to stay out. That's a really miscommunication or a bad call right there.
Going to be critical. I don't think with a splash now, unless the 90 car suddenly hits massive traffic and gets a bad lap under his belt, I don't think they're going to do it. Let's wait and see.
He needs a yellow really, really bad now.
Remember the big story for these guys, they're going for 3 in a row. He does not hit pit road this time by either. Final 21.5 minutes. And the question remains, who's going to do it? Do you remember this? How could you not? September 1996, Alex Zanardi on Brian Herter. That famous move at that famous corkscrew. 16 years ago. How time flies. And that famous pass. And what a man Alex Zanardi is. I'm sure most of you have heard the news that Alex was victorious at the Paralympics in the UK in the hand cycling class. And look at this. I wish I'd have a word for everyone who sincerely touched my heart with this support. Soon I'll try to do more. For more, now thank you. Just an incredible human being. There is nothing that man can't do.
The emotion when we saw him get back behind the wheel of an Indy car back at Lausitz Ring where he had that horrific accident. I mean, there were tears of everyone up and down pit lane that day, and just shows the mettle of the man to come back and do things like he's doing right now. Just incredible guy.
And another special man from the IndyCar ranks and sports car ranks as Alex Gurney goes up the Rahal Straight. We send our condolences to the Remke family, to the motor racing family, to Bobby Rahal and his group, Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan Racing, because long-time COO of that racing organisation, Scott Remke, has passed away. So Bobby, and to the Remke family, our thoughts are with all of you. Brian?
Down here at Gainesco, Bob Stallings racing. Bob watching the 99 flash by. Talks to Alex Gurney one more time in the Red Dragon, and we'll grab a word here with Bob. I think the one thing that you guys didn't get that we all expected was that late race caution that you've been looking for. How short is he going to be, Bob?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt if we don't get a yellow, we got to come in and flash the fuel. So we're gonna get a yellow for sure.
Positive thinking here in the 99th start for this team. When you look back over its history, are you kind of surprised with what all that you guys have done? I know you want more, but still, it's been a great ride.
Well, you know what? I mean, we've done better than just about everybody else out here, but it's been a very, very strange year. I wish we had one more race and one more win today.
They may have to wait until race number 100 for this team to get the victory, because they're going to be short on fuel, guys.
I'm thinking with all this GT traffic, I could make my own caution.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm thinking.
Let's do it old school. So Gurney continues to lead. He's got a massive lead, 18.5 seconds, but as we now know, the story is he cannot make it on this current fuel load, nor can this guy, Jeff Siegel, the GT Championship leader.
A little bit earlier, there's some communication between Jeff Siegel and the team. Let's listen in.
Just start doing some quicker laps here, because we're not going to make it on fuel unless we get a yellow. Let's just run it out. If we get a yellow, we lock in. If we don't, we'll have a bit of a cushion for our stop, and we'll just do a quick fill. But you want flat out? Go as hard as you can in lap 3. Don't take any risks.
Clearly he wasn't going flat out then.
Apparently not.
He was managing, and he was probably trying to save fuel, but then Ian Willis looked at the numbers and said, there's no way you're going to make it without yellow. You might as well just keep pushing, pushing, pushing. Then if we do get a yellow, that will save us enough to get us back the other side of that margin. So just a great call by the team, just a perfectly executed race season. Great job by Ian Willis and the boys. First time in this GT category. They have been the team to beat.
Final 15 minutes, and we understand the 99 is coming in for fuel. There goes one of the Starworks cars. That's the 2 of Alex Tagliani.
So close. We're looking for that yellow, but it's not going to happen.
What you could do here, if you're someone like Tag, you could come in. We'll have to wait and see if he's just splashing with fuel or indeed taking tires. If you can stay on that lead lap and got fresh tires, then you got a yellow. You could have a fast car underneath you.
That's the only other gamble left to play.
Here is the 5 of David Donahue, 7th place at the moment.
Oh, no, he's away
he's
again.
Okay, he's good.
Woo, 99 team are probably jumping up and down there for a minute.
You know they were.
I wonder what happened to Eric Curran in the Marsh Racing Whelan Corvette. Incidentally, speaking of Whelan, Sonny Whelan is here this weekend. Great to see Sonny back at the track. We know that he's retired from driving. Now deeply involved in Team Fox and trying to find a cure for Parkinson's disease. Oh, by himself.
Yeah, just loops it coming off the exit of the corkscrew there, Dorse.
Kind of loss of rear grip, could be a tire issue. They may be
17 laps into this run, so he should still have good grip, but just trying to chase these guys down. Was in the 7th spot, trying to chase down Lee Keane.
This is a team and an organisation that are very excited about the future of sports car racing as well, as is just about everybody in both the American Le Mans Series and Grand Am. What does the future hold? What do we do? What kind of cars are we going to be running? Where do we invest our money? What do we buy? Which class do we race in? So many questions to be answered, but so much excitement. For these guys here, for the 90 Spirit of Daytona team, the last time they were on pole in this championship was at Barber Motorsports Park. Guess what? They went to victory lane. They were on pole today, and they lead this race. Once Alex Gurney stops for fuel, that blue Corvette will be out in front.
We had a great day. You had a game of golf with Antonio Garcia and Richard Westbrook, and it's fun to spend a bit of time away from the racetrack with some of these drivers. You really get some insight into their personalities. Westy's very much a free spirit, joking and having a good time on the golf course. Antonio, boy, was he intense. Great golfer, but very analytical and took it very, very seriously. He obviously hates to lose, Lee.
Yeah, and when he hit a bad shot, he sulks like you do.
You can tell a lot about someone's personality by the fact that Lee was throwing golf clubs on a regular basis.
I've heard about this.
12 and a half minutes to go.
I think the line of the day was when we were on the range and Richard Westbrook said, "Didn't know I owned a 4-iron."
As you can see, folks, it was high-level golf.
Here's the man, Ryan Dial, in the third spot. He's going to pick up some points on Scott Pruitt here today, and that was really goal number one. Goal number two was win the race. But I tell you what, he could be handed a position here, because if the 99 keeps Alex Gurney on the racetrack, they don't get that yellow, it's going to be critical on that pit stop. Dial could finish second here today before this thing is over.
We need to squeak in a quick commercial break. It will be our final one before we take you all the way to the checkered flag. Gurney, Garcia, Dial, the top three in DP. Siegel, Cameron and Van Overbeck. But we know that Jeff Siegel needs to stop for fuel. See you in a moment. Meanwhile, we're here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca live, finishing this one off for the last 8.5 minutes. This car here, the Red Dragon, in its 99th race in Grand Am, leads the way, but it also needs fuel, just like Jeff Siegel in the 69.
Yeah, and this is going to be a time fill. And they're probably going to be a bit more conservative. There's a lot more fuel on board here, I think, they really need. But why take any chances with the championship in such good shape? They'll drop a few spots here now. Probably won't quite clinch it here today with this pit stop, but they're going to bring on the throes of a championship.
What a day it's going to be for Team Salem. The 43 of Wayne Nonamaker, Dane Cameron, they are back in the lead with just 8 minutes to go. Let's go to their team right now.
Katie Crawford calling the shots down here at Team Salem. Katie, you just saw what you needed to see. How's that make you feel, seeing the 69 come to pit road?
Right now, not any better because I still got 8 minutes to go.
Dane's got good tires on that car. I know you guys stopped and you played your strategy. He's got fuel to go. What's it going to mean to this team? I know that nobody's singing yet, but they're warming up the pipe. So a victory, what would that mean to this group?
I can't even tell you what it would mean, but can I tell you in 7.5 minutes? I hope. I don't know what's going to happen. All I'm hoping is I don't get a yellow. I do not need a yellow right now.
No yellows, that's what they're hoping for, and this team has been spectacular all year long. They've been so close, and they may just close the deal here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. How fitting would that be?
See the emotion in her face when he asked her that question. I mean, it's pretty serious stuff right there.
Well, she knows from her dad, Max, and her mum, Jan, who have been in racing their entire lives, it's not over till it's over. You remember the Rolex 24? 18 minutes to go when Tony Stewart had a mechanical issue, a suspension issue with the Crawford Daytona prototype. Otherwise, they could have won in those early days of the DPs at the World Center of Racing.
When they made the DP announcement, Katie was one who stepped up to the stage and said, "We're leaving GT and we want to thank Mazda for the tremendous support that both John Doonan and his whole group, and certainly Sylvain Tremblay, the Speed Source group." So what a great way to repay. The Mazdas have not been that strong here overall for the day, but boy, this car has been on fire.
Dane came up that corner and left two back black streaks off the rear tire, which means he's really still on the throttle pretty hard.
Look at this, here's Dial. He's got to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. He needs to somehow, some way, close the gap between he and Alex Gurney. Right now, he is running in third spot. Garcia looks like he's out of touch for second today, but Gurney, we know, is in fuel trouble. If he pits, Dial may be able to leapfrog him, so he would leapfrog Gurney, gain some points, and Pruitt, the man he's chasing in the championship, would not, as Scott Pruitt right now is down in sixth spot, not close enough to take advantage if Gurney hits pit lane. It's going to be really tight.
I'd have to assume he's got to come into pit lane. I don't.
Here he comes.
There he is. There he is.
He's probably got about 5 seconds to play with here in terms of keeping the track position over Ryan Dial. The time lost down pit lane is about 18.5 seconds. He's 24 in front of Dial right now. Brian's there.
Yeah, he's stopped. It'll be a time stop. We know that. And this time it'll be a stopwatch and a stick to the fueler's back. The time running, he touches him from the time he stops till the time he goes, right at 9 seconds.
Here's Garcia. Here's the blue Corvette. Keep your eyes on that. There's no match. Garcia will take that lead.
That's the lead. Where is Dial? I think Dial may get him.
We knew it was going to be between these two Corvettes, just judging by the pace and the quality of the car all weekend long. Here comes Dial.
It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. Gurney's still in pit lane. They're going to exit almost side by side. Look at this.
Gurney's
This is the battle. Wow.
Now the race is on.
It is on. DL looks to the inside. Gurney's got to get back into a rhythm, and DL has to pounce now.
The two-time championship winning team, Bob Stallings Gainsco boys, have been winless in season 2012. They've finished second a couple of times, and they may just have to face second again. But it's been a gutsy performance, coming back from that fuel issue, coming back from that penalty. It has been a very gutsy drive from Fogarty and Gurney.
That was critical. 1 second made the difference there, because I believe that Gurney has a little bit more pace. He's been running really strong laps. He should be able to keep the position in front of DL unless DL tries something desperate or GT traffic gets in the way like we're seeing right now.
Remember, DL is fighting for every single point because he's in the championship fight with Scott Pruitt and Memo Rojas. Last 4.5 minutes into turn 10.
Fastest laps of the day. Gurney has a 22.5 under his belt. DL a 22.8, so it's not a lot. But is it enough of a margin? Garcia's down the road in first.
That Red Dragon is really fast. Make no mistake about it. Right now, with all the adrenaline that's going through Alex Gurney's veins, and look, he's starting to pull a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing that's been impressive with the downforce setup they run on this 99 car here today. They've struggled in recent rounds by running too much downforce. Today, we saw him make that move on Pruitt. That 99 car has got some straightaway speed as well as lap time.
This is the shot in the arm that they needed. The Bob Stallings boys, after a lot of adversity this year. It's not a win, but it's another podium, and it's at the home track for Alex Gurney and John Fogarty.
All of the heartbreak that the Spirit of Daytona team have had through the mid part of this year. They started off so strong. They looked like championship contenders. Westbrook adapted to the DP so well. Had 2 wins early on. They were on a charge, and then suddenly it all got ugly. And the season just got away from them, but they've got a fast car. They've figured out these mechanical issues they've been having, and now they're executing again.
You're right, Calvin. They went to a part right there where they were failing pieces on the back of that car a lot until they got that figured out. No matter how fast they were, made no difference, but that's a thing of the past.
It's what sports car racing is all about, isn't it? A Brit, a Spaniard, and an American icon, the Chevrolet Corvette. Corvette 1 and 2, a Ford Riley 3.
And watch this GT traffic because they're about to come into a gaggle of cars here.
2.5 minutes to go. The margin is 6.2 seconds. Antonio Garcia make it 5.2 seconds. Alex took a full second out of Garcia on that last lap.
Traffic will be a factor. Here we see Jeff Siegel. He's in the 3rd spot. The championship is going to be oh so close tonight. Liddell is down in 8th. Bill Auberlen, who pairs up with Paul Dallalana, is in 10th. They're going to be on the verge of a championship here today.
We're crunching some numbers. This 3rd place for Jeff Siegel may be enough for this team, these drivers, to clinch this championship right here, right now, in these final 2 minutes. Lally's fighting hard to get that Magnus Porsche on the podium. Tense times here in GT.
That could be the difference right now. I think Siegel's going to have it 35 points on hand, but remember, if Lally can get by him, that may put it back into that 35-point zone. So this is critical for Jeff Siegel. He's got fuel to burn. Now we're going to see what that Ferrari can do.
How does it look if he finishes 4th, Cal? Because I think it'll be a 35-point. It'll be a 2-point difference between those positions. I think he'll still have enough. He'll lead with 35, and they've got more wins.
Got more wins, yeah.
So
that's right.
This is really looking good for Jeff Siegel and Emil Asentato. Coming to the white flag is Antonio Garcia here at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. 1 more to go for the team from Daytona Beach, Florida, where that historic announcement was made earlier this week that the American Le Mans Series and Grand Am will race together in a unified series in 2014.
What a year it's been, Lee. We were there when they unveiled this Daytona prototype from Corvette. There's a problem there down in turn 2.
And it's Donahue and Angelelli we hear.
Right here. Getting down in the turn 1-2 area. Oh, yeah, that wasn't good. I saw the 5 car sitting off the track there.
Yeah, Max had already committed to try and slide down the inside, and David started to slide over to close the door. So I'd call that a racing incident. I don't think you can lay any blame on Angelelli on that one, which is rare for us to say that. Just kidding, Max.
No team has had 3 wins this year in Daytona prototypes. Spirit of Daytona are about to change that. In half a lap, Ray Hall straight in the corkscrew for the final time.
Going to catch some traffic, but it doesn't really make that much difference with the lead he's got. Antonio will get through this. He doesn't have to pressure this passing situation.
Beautifully patient drive by Westy at the beginning. then handing it over to Antonio. Great job.
Do you remember the relief? Do you remember just the valve on the pressure cooker came off Troy Fliss and his team when they won at Barber Motorsports Park earlier this year? Then Mid-Ohio was icing on the cake. This is a huge bonus. The first team to get 3 wins in 2012. Spirit of Daytona. That's what it's all about. They rise to the top. Westbrook and Garcia win, and this is a magical moment for Team Salem. They've won in SGS. They have never won in GT. A Mazda wins at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Yeah, they've done it. John Doonan and Katie Crawford. Special times for Team Salem.
So cool. And this is it. Jeff Siegel holding on to this position. This is going to clinch the GT Championship for he and Emil Asentado right here.
Last time they won it, they were in a Mazda RX-8. Now, in the first year in the Ferrari, Jeff Siegel, Emil Asentado are the 2012 GT champions.
What Willis is talking about.
Terrific stuff, and we're going to hear from our victors when we come back. See you in a moment. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is presented on Speed by Rolex. Brought to you in part by Continental Tire, innovative technology driving confidence, and by Mazda. We believe if it's not worth driving, it's not worth building. Need to take you to the eharmony.com move of the race, and there's no doubt about this.
It was a tight one. Memo Rojas slides it down on Ricky Taylor down into turn 6. A brilliant move at a very critical point of this race, getting those guys back in the meat of the points.
You see how little room he had left to execute that pass. Well done, Memo Rojas, the eharmony.com move of the race. It's time to celebrate if you're at Spirit of Daytona, and that's where Brian Till is.
Yeah, Antonio Garcia, so soft-spoken, but he certainly lets it be known in the car that he's aggressive. Great job today, but late in the going, when you knew that you were going to be short on fuel and Troy called you in, did you start to have a little bit of a doubt as to whether you guys were going to walk away with the victory today?
I mean, it's always coming through your mind a lot of things. I mean, when you go to map this or map the other one, save fuel or not save fuel, you kind of don't know exactly what pace do you need to follow. So basically that was the main thing. So I had a problem with my dash. I could not see my pace either, so I didn't know what to do. I needed more information, but at the end, I mean, Richard drove a brilliant 2 stints. I mean, half of the job was done by him already, so brilliant. I mean,
he says, brilliant, Richard. And for you, you know, we talked about Lee and Calvin, you guys playing golf this weekend. That warm-up, that competitive battle between you guys, is that what kind of really spurred you guys on this weekend?
Well, it was a warm-up for us. I think it was a workout for Lee, actually, especially Calvin. No, it's just been a fantastic week. We got here nice and early, get rid of the jet lag. We started with a tricky car, but we worked on it. And yeah, it's good for us, this track, but we've been good at different types of tracks as well. We just haven't had the luck, and we really needed a break. And yeah, maybe I'm going to play those guys at golf more often because no, it's just been, you know, like I said, we just needed a trouble-free weekend, and that's what we get when we have one of those.
Congratulations, guys. Let's go to Chris with the winners in GT.
Yeah, Dane Cameron and Wayne Nonamaker, 2 podiums this year, get their first win. And Dane, all I've been hearing this weekend is about Ferrari and Porsche and how strong they were. But you guys in the Mazda do it at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
I mean, I have no words. We were fast all weekend. I didn't think we were fast enough. I mean, we were up front all day. We stayed up front. Just no words, man. To do this at home.
Lots of emotion down here. Finally, his teammate Wayne shows up. Wayne, what a way to finish the season here. We got one more to go, but you guys switching up to prototypes next year. What a way to finish in GT.
You know, it feels like we took care of some unfinished business today. The Team Sale Mazda RX-8 was great. And what a great way to get our win here at the Mazda home track. So, woo!
Congratulations, guys.
That was amazing. And for Dane Cameron to say, I win at home, this is where he grew up, just up the road. So special times, not only Mazda's home track, but his own home track as well. Let's have a look at the GT points because it's a real talking point. And we told you earlier in the day, all Jeff Siegel and Emil Asentado needed to do was leave here with a 35-point lead. They leave with 39. That means they are the 2012 champions. We'll talk with them a whole lot more at Lime Rock Park, that's for sure. What about in DP, Cal? I think that lead has been reduced.
It has been reduced. We're looking at the points there right now. 5 points less is the gap between Dial and Pruitt.
How about our newly crowned champions? Here they are.
Yeah, Emil Asentato, Jeff Siegel down here. You were in the car at the end, and it was there were some close moments out there on the racetrack, but as you claim this championship, all the pressure's off as you go to Lime Rock.
Yeah, I certainly hope that's the case. I mean, right now I'm just sitting here thinking, okay, hard-fought P2. They said we locked it up, and it certainly hasn't hit me yet. That was a really, really tough race. A bunch of really close calls, a lot of contact. A lot of times when my heart was in my throat, and I just can't believe we pulled through. Ferrari was such a strong car today, and Emil drove great. AIM Autosport, Team FXTD, they did an awesome, awesome job. Really looking forward to going to Lime Rock and enjoying that one.
Yeah, they've got some celebrating to do tonight, guys. Congratulations.
Well done to Emil Asentato and Jeff Siegel, two-time Rolex GT champions. Dorse, there was some pretty gutsy driving out there today.
There was, and I don't know if it was a merger that was announced, between the two sanctioning bodies being unified, but everybody was on their A game here. This was a really good sports car race.
One to go, Cal. One to go at Lime Rock Park.
Well, the GT Championship is decided, but the DP is definitely up in the air. 13 points separate Scott Pruitt, Memo Rojas from Ryan Dial. We know Dial's history at Lime Rock. He is tough there. We know the Ganassi group have had problems there. That looks like the lead is insurmountable, but they have to get points on the board. That 30-minute mark will be crucial at Lime Rock Park.
You've got to go all the way to the end of this championship. A reminder, September 29, in just a few weeks' time, 3 p.m. Eastern, live here on Speed, to round out this 2012 Rolex Sports Car Series Championship. What a year it's been. The good news is it's not over. Thanks for being with us here in California. You've been watching live Sports Cars on Speed. We congratulate our winners. We'll see you soon.